Throughout history, they called them legendary heroes, but let's be real, they were basically cheaters, somehow building entire kingdoms. And then there were the absolute legends, who could literally freeze enemies just by saying their name. From these powerhouses came kings, forging massive empires that totally changed everything. Then you had the masterminds, leading huge organizations and spreading their influence everywhere. And since forever, there were the ones whose legends echoed through time, the infamous Demon Kings. But as he thought about all these epic titles and histories, Davy Orwain just felt totally unimpressed. He just scoffed, muttering, pathetic. They can just go F***ck themselves. Then, a deep voice cut in, so your name is the only thing that counts. A chilling flashback hits, a small figure crushed in ruins, a massive hand looming, and the stark, haunting thought of being dragged back into that nightmare. All for a single rescue. But back in the desolate Hall of Heroes, a blue-haired woman and Daphne are totally stunned, demanding to know what's even happening. The scene flashes again, a figure falling into a literal pit of fire, swearing vengeance on the pile of lava, who dared to say it was for their own good. These are the deep, dark scars, the soul-crushing wounds he's collected over time, carved by the oppressive shadows of those who stood above him. And now, Davy Orwain strides through this desolate, barren wasteland, the infamous Hall of Heroes itself. His eyes blaze with an intense, blood-red glow, a terrifying promise on his lips. He's saying goodbye to them, and it's happening soon. This is Davy, standing tall, confident, and absolutely owning the moment. Meanwhile, the blue-haired woman is freaking out, lamenting that he's still so young, and she shouldn't have let him go alone. Daphne, absolutely livid, screams, "You let him go alone." Both women then stare down at a small, mysterious object, the blue-haired woman urgently asking, "What did you even get?" A chaotic memory flashes, a voice screaming, "You think you're hot stuff, even now," as another yells, "Little bro." The chaos escalates, one figure roaring, "I'm just gonna," while another snarls, "Let go," and a third vows, "Hold still. I'll save you." Back in the present, Davy's face is a mask of thought, a quiet sigh escaping him as he stares ahead. High above, Daphne and the blue-haired female look on, their faces etched with worry, a quiet gasp escaping one of them at the unfolding events. Davy's eyes blaze crimson, his voice firm as he proclaims, "Whatever, goodbye, Davy." He pivots, leaving the grand hall behind, his determination absolute, a chilling vow hanging in the air, "For as long as you live." His stare is unwavering, a burning intensity in his crimson eyes. His bare feet carrying him onward, leaving his past behind. He strides away from a throng of smiling faces, a final, symbolic goodbye to those he's leaving, his path now irrevocably his own. He's trapped in a mind-bending flashback, a mysterious voice hitting him with an offer he can't refuse. But just as the offer hangs in the air, a swirling darkness swallows everything. Only to be ripped apart by a blinding, electric flash of light. The energy crackles, intense and overwhelming. Then explodes into a shower of shimmering green particles. The dream shatters, and suddenly, he's back in reality, a green liquid steadily pumping into his arm. The glowing fluid a stark reminder of his current state. His hand, hooked up to the floor, lies on a pristine white bed. Before he snaps awake, yelling in frustration at the agonizing stiffness seizing his whole body. "Damn it! My body is totally stiff." Davy fights to open his eyes, a crushing weight holding him down, his body screaming in protest. But the struggle is too much, and he simply gives up, letting the pain wash over him. His vision blurs into focus, revealing a ridiculously fancy room. His eyes lock onto a framed portrait, himself, a stunning woman, and a powerful beastfolk, and it all clicks. He's the abandoned, weak prince. He stares at the face, the name hitting him like a lightning bolt, Davy Al Roan. A map of the Rowan kingdom, a tiny northern realm, flashes before his eyes, solidifying his new reality. He's the abandoned prince, the firstborn of the royal family. He glances at the portrait again, just to be sure, and yep, that's him, Davy Al Roan. Lounging in that ridiculously fancy bed, a wave of pure satisfaction hits him. He's a prince. Forget his past life's power, now it's all about living the high life. But then he takes a closer look at the slightly dusty, old-fashioned room, and a new thought hits him, making him instantly regret his luxury comment. He's reeling, questioning his past self's weakness. A vivid memory flashes, Daphne and Hercules in a stunning garden, a time when he thought raw power was the ultimate answer. He gets it now. His past life blinded him to the real meaning of being the true prince, letting countless opportunities just vanish. Weakness? That's just a giant target on his back, a guaranteed way to get abandoned by his own family. That garden scene, Daphne and Hercules, it's all still there, a silent reminder of the past he's about to shatter. Enough. From his bed, Davy's making the call, it's time to shut down these old thoughts. First things first, full body recovery. He's coughing, but the resolve is ironclad. Forget everything else. That's for later. He's grunting with pure, unadulterated determination. He takes a breath, a silent message to his enemies. He's coming for them all. Not as the weakling he was, but with this new, powerful body. Daphne and Hercules flash before his eyes again. Suddenly, a vivid memory flashes. It's Daphne, with her striking reddish-brown hair, galloping fiercely across a lush, open land. But then, a new face from the past appears, a blonde warrior with an intense stare, boldly proclaiming that has been trained by heroes for 1,000 years. A foot lands with a soft thud, signaling an arrival. A challenging voice cuts through the air, so this is where you were. Davy sits, head bowed, a silent question hanging in the air. He's down, a hand reaching for him, as a voice booms, they said I was the most powerful human. The voice scoffs, forgetting me? We'll see if you can still say that. Daphne watches, unmoving, from the shadows. The figure closes in, their words a direct challenge, just to be confirmed with my own eyes, I came all the way here. Davy, defeated, feels everything slipping away. He looks up, a desperate plea in his eyes, you don't even know. How old am I? Hercules' intense gaze pierces through, declaring, I don't care about your strength, while Davy's mind screams in despair. Davy is deep in thought, pondering the privileged lives of the naturally gifted, and he can't help but wonder if his companion already knew the harsh truth. He scoffs, glaring down at the pathetic creature, a bitter thought echoing in his mind, don't think I haven't been through hell every single day and night. But before he can wallow further, a massive hand slams onto his head, yanking him up as a booming voice cuts through the air, cheer up, newbie. Davy is stunned, but the beast folk just keeps going, a confident grin on his face, I'm gonna help you out. Seriously, there's no excuse for you to be this weak. I'm making you stronger. And with a confident smirk, he drops another bombshell, I'll even handle your royal family. Then, with a powerful presence, he finally introduces himself, my name is Hercules. Davy's brain is in overdrive, reeling from the revelation. The prince of the empire? A hunter? What even is this survival he's talking about? Then, getting down on one knee and taking Davy's hand, Hercules makes a bold declaration, from today, you're my disciple. I'm teaching you everything. Davy is still processing, but Hercules is already on his feet, now in a wide-open field, laying out the next steps, alright, let's go hunting. I'll teach you everything. And seriously, don't sweat your royal family, I've got it covered. A sudden, jarring cry rips through the silence, followed by a sharp, desperate gasp. A guttural groan escapes, as if from the depths of a nightmare. Leaving only the frantic, heavy panting echoing through the lavish room. A mysterious drip pulses with a vibrant green glow. And then, Davy's eyes snap open, a shocking realization hitting him as he whispers, that's right. A deep, weary sigh escapes his lips. Confirming the impossible, I've really returned. Outside, a breathtaking castle looms under a glittering night sky. Its majestic presence hinted at by the intricate window details within. How long can he just chill like this? Only one maid? Seriously? Yeah, it's just this one maid, and she's totally acting like, oh, this is just how it is. Still hooked up to this it's been forever since he was in a coma. He lets out a little huff, only one maid. Seriously? The room's silent, just a soft rustle. Then he realizes the maid's gone. Oh, right, he thinks, like, shouldn't there be more people taking care of him? A soft thump as he moves in bed. He sighs, reaching out, still feeling super weak. Can't move freely yet, he grumbles, but you can see that fire in his eyes. But hey, small wins, right? He thinks, at least I can stand. That's good enough for now. A young woman jolts awake in bed, eyes locked onto her phone, a burning question demanding an answer. With a decisive tap, she pulls up the calendar, a single, urgent thought dominating her mind, what is the date? A glowing orb pulses in her palm, a chilling reminder of the lost years, and the truth hits her like a physical blow, 6 years gone. Her eyes snap wide open in pure shock, the crushing realization of 6 lost years hitting her with devastating force. The phone clatters away, her mind instantly overwhelmed by a brutal, crimson-soaked flashback. Monstrous shadows and a desolate, blood-drenched wasteland erupt in her vision, a terrifying echo of a past she barely remembers. Her face twists in anguish, a forgotten plate clutched in her hand, as the chilling truth screams in her head, 6 years have passed. Collapsing back onto the bed, her face sets into a mask of iron will, a fierce vow escaping her lips, I can't go back to being pathetic. She will recover, and she will do it fast. A mysterious young woman, in a simple robe, reaches out, her eyes unfocused as if waking from an epic sleep. Then, a powerful blue aura bursts around her, and a system alert confirms a massive restoration and healing is happening right now. Her eyes shoot open, filled with shock and confusion, a stunned gasp escaping her as she tries to understand what's happening. She closes her eyes again, focusing intensely, as if downloading a massive data packet of power or forgotten memories. And then, she's fully awake, staring at her arm, spotting the foredrip with a shocked yell, totally confused about where she is and what's going on. A pair of hands rise, palms open, as a mentor begins to drop some serious knowledge. As a glowing orb hovers before him, the cloaked figure drops the bomb. This holy power is totally off limits for Davy. Holding the radiant energy in his own hands, Davy is totally confused, like, wait, what? Why can't I use this awesome power? The mentor keeps going, laying it out plain and simple. Davy just doesn't have what it takes. A brilliant golden light explodes, practically blinding the prince as the voice drops the truth bomb. Only the pure and righteous get that sweet, sweet God power. This sacred power is basically a VIP pass from the gods, and you need a pure heart and total faith to even touch it. Even though Davy's heart is pure, he's still missing that deep, deep faith to actually control this insane power. Meanwhile, a totally fed up young woman with dark hair, chilling in bed, just wants whatever's going on to shut up and stop being so annoying. The issue had been building up, and now, she was completely stuck, her body refusing to obey, a serious concern bubbling up inside her. But just like always, Daphne was fighting to get up, her body feeling totally alien, and she was seriously telling herself to stop being so lazy. This was beyond frustrating. She fumed, trying to force her body to heal, but it was a no-go. She begged her magic to kick in, but it was just dead silent. This was literally the easiest healing spell she knew, and it was totally ghosting her. She kept pushing herself to move, getting more and more hyped up with every single fail. But she wasn't giving up, begging for that restore, heal, spell to finally pop off, surrounded by the chaos of her attempts. She just collapsed against the bed, letting out a huge sigh, thinking she'd usually just quit, but something was seriously pushing her forward. With a fresh burst of resolve, she reached out, a quiet, hey, playing in her head. Her gaze sharpened with intense focus, as she fiercely told herself to get a move on before I kill you, and a soft, glowing aura started to pulse from her back. Then, bam. A burst of shimmering, glowing feathers exploded around her, radiating with an otherworldly light. This is it. She can't miss this shot, a triumphant nice bursting from her as her hand ignites with power. Restored. The paralysis is gone. She's in bed, soaking in that sweet, sweet morning light. But wait, the iridescent feathers from her epic struggle are still floating around, shimmering with residual magic. A soft, ethereal glow just filling up the whole place. And these light patterns are just dancing across everything, a total testament to the power she just unleashed. Then, with a surge of pure strength, she grabs that doorknob, shouting, I finally did it, and it just echoes through the room. She's standing. Unassisted. Just taking in her bedroom, feeling that sweet, sweet accomplishment. As she steps out, she's already thinking about the lingering weakness, totally determined to fix it once she's fully recovered. Her eyes narrow, burning with an unwavering determination to get back to 100%. She stands on a balcony, taking in a vibrant city bathed in sunlight, a soft gasp of awe escaping her. The sun blazes in a clear blue sky, its warmth a powerful, welcoming embrace. A soft smile spreads across her face, pure contentment washing over her as she acknowledges how long it's been. Her lips curve into a wider grin, and she starts to raise her hand towards the sky, a subtle sound accompanying the motion. Her arm extends further, reaching for the warmth above. With a joyful cry, she stretches both arms wide, fully embracing the light. Her voice rings out across the city, a powerful declaration of gratitude and freedom. A triumphant cheer escapes her, her face alight with pure happiness, followed by a soft, satisfied sigh. Later, she stands before a mirror, observing her reflection, a quiet satisfaction settling upon her features as she takes in her fully recovered form. Her eyes snap open, wide with shock. As a maid lets out a shocked gasp, Prince. Snapping back to reality, the maid drops into a deep bow, frantically apologizing for her sudden reaction. Later, the royal doctor meticulously checks Daphne's leg with a stethoscope, a thoughtful hum escaping his lips. The seasoned royal doctor, Remus, delivers the verdict, declaring, You're perfectly healthy, my dear. A radiant smile spreads across Daphne's face, a silent acknowledgement of her complete recovery. Still meticulous, Remus probes if he overlooked anything, but Daphne simply states she just needed a change of scenery. A knowing look crosses the doctor's face, as he quietly responds, I see. She's thinking about how weak she used to be, but now, even though she hates her current situation, she's got some serious new power. Boom. The scene cuts to a map, dropping the name Davy Alrone like a bombshell. And get this Davy isn't just any guy, he's the first prince, and he's just snagged a major ally in Ishard. A hand slams down, and the thought hits hard, how tenacious. Daphne, still watching everything unfold, can't help but scoff at how full of themselves these people are. As we get a glimpse of the cunning Princess Harriet. They've even dragged her kids into this mess, all part of a twisted plan to turn the queen into their puppet. But then, the first prince, Davy, appears, looking absolutely ready for anything. A grand room, silent, waiting for the next move. Princess Harriet, with a child by her side, demands answers, her voice sharp with worry. Did you see who shot that arrow? But Daphne, haunted by the mystery, can only lie in bed, her mind racing. I'm not sure, the arrow came out of nowhere. A chilling thought crosses her mind, have they been captured? Sleep is impossible, her mind fixates on the unseen, yet undeniably powerful, figure who haunts her thoughts. Princess Harriet, however, cuts her off, declaring the case officially closed. Daphne, fan in hand, absorbs the news, her true feelings hidden behind a composed facade. But later, it's Davy who offers solace, pulling her close as she murmurs apologies for her restless night. He then gives her space, saying, anyways, I'll leave you to it. But Daphne's mind is still consumed by him, unable to shake his image, as Princess Harriet coldly remarks, it would have been better if you had just gone to sleep. Daphne jolts awake, a voice cutting through her dreams, taunting her about her hero's return. But elsewhere, the Black Prince is attacked and falls into a coma, and a sneering noble just calls it an embarrassment. He scoffs, turning his back on the whole affair, and orders his guards to move out. Daphne, still reeling, sits up in bed, the kingdom's doctors baffled by the Black Prince's state, leaving her to piece together the puzzle. A soft knock pulls her from her thoughts, and she reaches for the door. Her hand flares with magic as she realizes a high-ranking mage was behind the attack, and she's furious they're trying to cover it up. Back in bed, Daphne can't rest, her mind racing with the truth. It wasn't the Duke's daughter, and the sight of that red-faced attacker had filled her with murderous rage. But even with all that fury, she knows her power was nothing against theirs. As she struggles, Davy's voice cuts through the darkness, telling her to come to him, to forget it all, and just be. Approaching a seriously epic mansion, with a balcony that screams royalty, Davy's only thought is, what's for dinner? Talk about priorities. A cascade of dark hair falls freely as Davy Orwain, now absolutely juiced with newfound abilities, floats effortlessly in a grand chamber, reflecting on the past fortnight since he first awakened his holy powers. But mastering them? That's proving to be a whole new level of grind. He observes his hands, a subtle energy shimmering around them, acknowledging the sheer difficulty of the task. Yet, with dedicated mana control training, his recovery process is absolutely cruising. Below him, Daphne and Hercules stand ready as he issues a command, to bring him all the brainwashed individuals, especially the continuous and strongest ones, those discarded by the church. It's time to get to work. With his hands glowing brightly, he prepares to unleash the ultimate cleanse. A powerful wave of blue, water-like energy erupts from his palms, spreading outward to purify everything in its path. His feet barely touch the ground, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow, as he realizes just how ridiculously convenient magic is. His hands radiating with a similar light as he effortlessly manipulates his surroundings. The prince is just chilling, thinking about how awesome it is to have magic for literally everything. But his chill vibes are instantly shattered by a sudden thought, it's Amy. A loud clatter rips through the air, as a covered dish goes flying from unseen hands. His eyes blaze crimson with pure annoyance as he stares down at the ruined meal, the phrase, here is your food, now a cruel joke. Amy, the maid, bows her head in shame, apologizing for her epic fail, but he quickly tells her to chill out. He doubles down on the reassurance, trying to make it clear that it's really, truly no big deal. Amy, however, is still freaking out, apologizing again while he just stares, utterly baffled by the mountain of plates she's somehow managed to wreck. But with a sudden, fierce determination, she declares she'll just eat the whole mess by shoveling it all in. That bowl of food, on the verge of exploding, was gone. The restore magic had seriously cranked up her digestion, tripling what she could handle. A massive wave of relief just washes over Amy, and she clutches her stomach like her soul is literally coming back online. And naturally, the aftermath of that epic feast was instantly obvious, her maid uniform practically screaming for mercy at the seams. Davy's face shows a flicker of annoyance as she tries to explain her super-fast digestion, because she just ate enough for 3 people. He just stares, completely blown away by this totally unexpected revelation. Standing right there, Amy bows super deep, calling him the very hungry prince and dropping that bombshell. He totally reassures her, saying it's fine and she didn't mess anything up. In her hand, a crumpled note spills the beans on her normal eating habits, hinting this wasn't just a one-time thing. Amy's still dropping bombshells, revealing how restore magic supercharges her digestion, leaving her a bottomless pit of hunger. Davy's just soaking it all in. Trying to wrap his head around this magical metabolism, realizing it's way more than just a big appetite. She's not just eating a ton, her body's on fast forward, constantly battling that empty feeling like she's the last line of defense. The prince can't help but crack a small smile, finding the whole thing both wild and a little worrying. He totally gets how weird this is, admitting it's quite the homecoming after everything he's been through. Thinking back, he remembers a time when food wasn't even a thought, then pivots, hitting Amy with the big question, what's the deal with the castle's money situation? Amy, clutching the ledger, looks totally stressed, groaning that their monthly haul is a pathetic 6,000 gold, which she thinks is absolutely abysmal. She's still poring over the numbers, totally baffled, wondering how they pulled in such a tiny amount this month and freaking out that if they're just scraping by, they'll be totally broke. Davy's now got his own document, deep in thought about the gold, his face serious as he grapples with the harsh financial truth of his new reality. Amy double-checks the figure with him, and he just gives a quick, that's right, confirming her grim assessment of their pathetic earnings. She stares him down, clearly worried, and demands he confirm if he's even getting the money correctly, hinting at some shady business with their income. Amy drops the bombshell, the amount I receive is. And Davy cuts her off with a shocking revelation, about 1/3. Her hands instantly clench, a stunned, what, escaping her lips. Pure disbelief and worry contort her features. As Davy's inner monologue explodes, she's a total idiot. He doesn't hold back, thinking, but this is your own fault for being so gullible. Amy's mind flashes back to her relentless dedication, to take care of him and the castle. I've been working hard for the past 5 years, by myself. Even though I'm not receiving my own salary to do so. A sly, knowing smirk spreads across Davy's face. He commands her to take what she needs from his income, but the maid, flustered, apologizes, citing her status as a mere employee. With an unyielding tone, he reiterates his command, refusing to repeat himself. Visibly shaken, she can barely get out an apology, the shocking truth hitting her hard, they're facing starvation by tomorrow. He confirms her worst fears, and when she calls him Prince, he immediately shuts it down, finding it far too stiff. Then, with a chilling resolve, he warns her, disobey him, and he'll take everything. Amy, however, finds a sliver of hope, a small comfort in the knowledge that at least one descendant remains on her side. The very halls of the castle echo with the weight of its current crisis, its financial fate now resting squarely on the prince's shoulders. Amy notes the prince's direct involvement in the finances, while he, in his mind, imagines his ancestors absolutely losing it over the situation. And to top it all off, he bitterly notes, his father is still nowhere to be seen, even with everything falling apart. Amy's mind races, picturing the absolute disaster if the queen ever caught wind of this mess. Across the grand hall, Davy's thoughts are consumed by his father's potential disappointment, a crushing weight without his mother's presence. Amy, looking at him, starts to wonder if she needs to step up, but Davy instantly shuts her down with a chilling threat, keep talking like that and your salary's gone. She mentally pushes back, vowing not to fall into old habits, but his threat hangs heavy in the air. Amy's expression tightens. As Davy holds his unwavering, determined stare. He lays down the law, expecting her full cooperation, and after a beat of pure tension, Amy can only stammer out her reluctant agreement. A lavender-haired woman in a sharp green jacket drops a bombshell, her apology barely masking the bad news. Spilling the tea that the funds are totally locked down, impossible to touch. Meanwhile, Davy's navigating some seriously fancy halls, piecing together that he's been shunted off to the financial department. His gut feeling was right, they're totally disrespecting him, and he's not about to let that slide. The lavender-haired official keeps her cool, looking almost apologetic. Her face a mask as she drops the bombshell. Then, a.m. Davy jolts awake on a fancy couch, a low growl escaping him, just a raw, hey. His eyes blaze crimson with pure fury, his voice dripping with disbelief and rage as he snarls, are you seriously messing with me? He's listening as Daphne, with 2 guards by her side, drops a bombshell, her voice barely audible as she seeks confirmation. The ledger spills the beans, that 500 gold. Gone. Less than 100 left. What? This massive cash crunch means the estate's going down, and even the staff's paychecks are on the chopping block. It hits him hard, and a furious anger starts to boil. Daphne and the other staff are totally freaking out, as the shocking truth sinks in, the garden's a jungle, and the whole estate is falling apart. The staff are buzzing, thinking he got ripped off, but Daphne shuts them down, demanding answers, how did it get this bad? Totally crushed by the bad news, he just turns and walks off, letting out a massive groan. Later, chilling in his room, Amy the maid comes up to him, and totally agrees, this whole thing is messed up. Amy's talking to him all proper, but he's just thinking, seriously, what kind of prince even has to worry about his own money? A stern financial manager stares down, practically daring him to come up with an excuse. She's thinking about the financial department's mess, a total disaster zone. And then, it hits him, a tiny, exasperated sigh escaping as he realizes, it's the financial department again. But the manager is just baffled by his attitude, like, is he seriously going to blame someone else or just bail? He's had it. Rising from the couch, he tells Amy they're out, and she's like, wait, are you actually going to the financial department? A look of pure disgust flashes across his face as he snaps, why would I ever go there? Walking away, Amy's pretty sure he's not going either, because, come on, they're not just handing out bank passes. The financial manager, fuming with her guards, just mutters to herself, just go buy something with the money you've already got. But hey, at least his room is so in order. He just walks away from the financial manager, brushing off the drama. His servants would bail if nobles acted like that, he says, but hey, at least he pays them on time. But his maid, Amy, is right there, totally stressed, reminding him, sir, Amy's the one carrying all this weight. Then, totally bewildered and a little scared, she blurts out, a sword. Wait, what? He just brushes it off, like it's no big deal, chill out. I'm not planning on slicing anyone up. He flashes a huge, cheeky grin, totally messing with her, Did I actually scare you? Then, sword in hand, he just turns and walks off, declaring, I'll just go find one myself. Striding through the lavish hall, his mind drifts back, a realization dawning on him, oh, right. He remembers running to God, telling those three deities he absolutely despised humans, but now, he thinks, he's got zero plans to actually cut anyone. A pink-haired powerhouse is sent flying through a crimson void, a voice taunting them about their easy position. Dark hands close in on a mysterious blue splat, and a chilling truth is revealed, this whole setup is rotten, a total trap. But the pink-haired warrior, eyes blazing red, looks up, absolutely refusing to let this stand. Their gaze hardens, a fierce resolve burning within them to fight back. On a floating platform, surrounded by crackling purple energy, they make their stand, no puppet for these rotten nobles. Suddenly, a monstrous blob unleashes a terrifying, booming roar. Back with Davy, Amy is absolutely stunned, demanding to know when he got his hands on that sword. A lone figure stands before a towering castle, their mind already racing to find a secret agent for their plans. Davy stares at the sword in his grip, a silent admission that his earlier words were a total lie, but he's playing along for now. Sir Davy. Amy screams, pleading for her own life over his. Her eyes wide with terror, she can barely utter a word, I can't. I can't let this filth touch a prince, she declares, despite already being covered in the monster's gore. A frustrated sigh escapes him. You teach etiquette, yet you're the one who's going to get hurt. A mischievous grin. Relax, no one's watching. A blur of steel. The monster is obliterated in an instant, its danger utterly meaningless to him. Cleaning his sword, he muses on the political quagmire, acknowledging his current inability to approach the king and his indifference to the rest of the royalty. A different scene unfolds, a powerful figure, blade in hand, asserts their authority as an Imperial Academy student, overseeing the west of Orion and leading a specialist unit. This is a blade, they state with conviction. Inside the hallowed halls, a chilling question hangs heavy, what kind of accident could even happen here? A maid helps her get ready, and Daphne, picking an outfit, declares, I'll wear this one. The maid gushes, you look good in it, my lady. But Daphne's inner thoughts reveal, it's not that I don't like it, but... Elsewhere, a grim report reveals the first prince is barely moving, facing a brutal 3-month recovery just to get back on his feet. Daphne, scrutinizing the data, snaps, is there any chance this intel is flawed? Her face remains unreadable, even as the maid meticulously finishes her dressing. The maid, oblivious or uncaring, continues her lecture, sure, you're a Dark Moon informant, but in MY presence, you're just a C-class maid. Daphne's mind races to the Dark Moon Assassins Guild, hidden in the west of Orion, acknowledging the maid's words but dismissing her attitude. Even with the maid's harsh words, Daphne confesses, I just can't shake off the feeling she gives me, her mind on the first prince, utterly abandoned by his own king. Across town, a maid named Shirley gazes out, convinced that even if the first prince wakes up after 6 years, absolutely nothing will change. A delicate hand extends, its owner internally declaring absolute control over the first prince's very existence. But in the background, a maid's thoughts betray a deeper truth, things are supposed to be one way, yet the world rarely plays by the rules. Shirley, the maid, confronts her mistress, declaring her conscience demands action beyond class boundaries, and warns that insulting the royals will lead to a heavy price. A haunting image of a suffering Prince Davy flickers, as Shirley quickly clarifies she was only voicing her concerns, nothing more, she insists. Her eyes gleam with cold resolve, a chilling thought echoing in her mind, disobedient dogs must be put down, no matter the cost. Striding through the lavish corridors, she leaves a trail of absolute authority, as a devoted servant pledges her complete allegiance, awaiting the moment to strike. It's like pulling a single thread through 1,000 needles. Mana rips through the tunnel, forging an unstoppable stream of raw power. A warning echoes, stay strong and careful. Davy stares down a glowing screen, a voice demanding, do you understand, my youngest? He considers the challenge, declaring he'll tackle it if it's not too tough, even if it means doing it the prince's way. Later, with Daphne at his side, he watches something unfold, finding it quite entertaining. Davy snaps back, "Why would you say that?" as the narration reveals a drunk priestess who can split oceans and a necromancer who's more butler than mage. Davy then eyes a glowing red orb, pondering its secrets. Meanwhile, the Empress, Sister Hypoxia, looks on, deep in thought. She offers her mana assistance, stating, "Not everyone's blessed with this talent." Davy, taken aback, can only agree. Sister Hypoxia's voice cuts through the air, demanding trust, her offer of mana assistance still ringing in Davy's ears. He stands, back to the world, grappling with her words, a temple flashback hitting him hard. The memory vanishes, leaving him with a burning resolve, he's never going back there. Fast forward. The scene shifts to a tranquil garden, and there's Amy, chilling among the vibrant plants. Her voice, a gentle query, cuts through the thick leaves, calling out to someone in the shadows. A tiny creature welcomes her back, as a voice booms a greeting, asking if she's on a garden adventure today. Amy takes in the stunning scenery, gushing about the perfect weather and how the forest has transformed into a magnificent garden. She quickly assures them she's okay and ready to go, but makes sure they'll tell her if anyone comes looking. Davy muses on Amy's incredible growth, realizing that despite her usual freakouts, she's actually adapting to this tough new reality. Davy can't help but wonder if his relentless efforts to reach Amy are finally paying off. Seeing her brighter, even if she's still giving him the cold shoulder at meal times. He decides it's time to level up his own game. Elsewhere, Amy takes a moment under a tree, ready to unleash her potential. As an operation field erupts around her in a dazzling display of hexagonal energy. She dives into her training. Golden mana crackling and swirling around her with intense focus. Davy, ever the watchful eye, observes from afar. Witnessing the incredible process of siphoning raw mana from the environment and purging impurities. This, he instantly recognizes, is the legendary mana breathing. He's deep in thought about the breathing technique, this legendary magic, a hidden power. He knows without a source, the body just can't hold mana. Normally, this technique would open the gates to the world of magic, but it's brutal, absolutely merciless. If this secret got out, it would ignite a full-blown revolution. But he's got zero intention of letting that happen. Besides, it's not like just anyone can master it anyway. He just sits there, thinking about how insane this technique is, a silent question echoing in his mind. His eyes snap open, a sudden spark of realization, he feels something, someone, nearby. A question pops into his head, aimed at whatever's out there. He'll check things out, but if it's too much hassle, he's out, because being seen as a weak, dumb prince. That's a whole other level of trouble. He's deep in the forest, eyes closed, meditating intensely. His mana distortion technique isn't just powerful, it demands absolute peace for training. The sheer mana drain is insane, but that's not even the half of it, because... A confident smirk spreads across his face. It's finally time to make his move. His mind flashes to the glowing, complex design of his mana circle, a powerful, yet goddamned, construct. Chilling in a gazebo, he's deep in thought about the core rules of magic, priests are locked out of magic, and mages can't touch holy powers. He traces a hand over ancient vines, pondering the ultimate forbidden art, necromancy, completely off limits to both priests and mages. His eyes blaze crimson as he declares his impossible truth, he can wield all three of these powers, a fact that makes him think about the temple's no crazy girls rule. A quick mental flash of Daphne and another dark-haired woman, the two old Baal researchers, hits him. And just thinking about it all makes him feel absolutely sick to his stomach. Davy is in the zone, pushing his limits, his movements a blur as he hones his insane mana control. He lets out a breath, thinking, most mages just slap a circle on their heart and call it a day. But for him, it's a whole different beast. His feet barely touch the ground as a faint orange energy starts to pulse. Because he can't just use a heart circle with holy power. He needs to forge a custom-made circle, radiating power around his whole body. This isn't just some simple spell, he's literally matching the mana flow to his own arteries. He's basically turning himself into a living battery, creating an insane circle and pumping mana through his whole body, with his heart as the ultimate power core. Green energy roots him to the ground, showing the sheer depth of his connection, but he knows this isn't just magic, it's practically body modification, and it's incredibly risky. He has to be perfect, because one slip-up means instant death. With his eyes shut and a faint purple aura, he remembers the last time he tried this, he nearly died from mana reversal. Damn it, he thinks, this power is a nightmare. Can he pull it off this time? He's trying to manifest a flower right on his palm, pushing his insane mana technique to the absolute limit. His eyes blaze crimson as raw power explodes from his hands, a literal exclamation point of pure energy. Elsewhere, Daphne, Sister Hypoxia, and Amy are watching, and someone's clearly thinking, this isn't the usual me. But Davy's not backing down, he's ready to risk everything for this, declaring he'll put his life on the line. He unleashes the full force of his dangerous power, and a radiant, glowing flower bursts into existence from his hand. Hours later, as darkness blankets the majestic castle. Amy is on edge, realizing dinner is long past and the young master is nowhere to be found. He's always late, she thinks, but skipping a meal. That's unheard of, as the untouched dinner sits waiting. She's practically vibrating with anxiety, repeating the prince's orders. He told me not to bother him unless it was a huge deal, but if something went down, he'd totally call for backup, right? But the dread is building, her mind racing with the worst-case scenario. What if something actually happened to the prince? Then, a voice shatters her panic, and her head snaps up, eyes wide with shock. And there he is, the man himself, calling out, "Sir Davy. I'm back." He strolls closer, a playful smirk on his face, teasing, "Were you waiting for me? I told you not to." Seeing her speechless, he lets out a soft chuckle, "Ugh, you and your stubbornness." Her face explodes in a blush, and she can't help but think, "Whoa, I guess I've gotten tougher, or something." Then, without warning, he just pulls her into a tight hug, holding her close. Her heart is absolutely pounding, and her eyes flash with an intense, emerald glow, giving away everything she feels. As her eyes dim from their vibrant green, he pulls back, a quiet moment of reflection, and a single word, "Sorry," escapes him, directed at Amy. The intimate moment is brutally interrupted. Shirley is fighting for her life, screaming that she's at her limit, while Davy is suddenly dragged down, plummeting into a chaotic swirl of energy as she desperately calls out to him. Light streams into the room, hitting the fancy chandelier, and Davy's eyes flutter open. He blinks, his mind snapping awake, and a huge wave of relief hits him. He was worried for nothing. But then, a sudden, shocking memory hits him. He totally passed out yesterday. Next to him, a soft hand smooths the sheets. He sees Amy, sleeping soundly right there, and it all clicks. He's like, "Oh no. That's right. I totally blacked out yesterday." He lifts his hand, checking out the crazy glowing veins, realizing the artery circle he was so nervous about is now perfectly done, and the three powers inside him have totally fused, creating some wild new effect on this circle. Morning light floods the room, and Amy's still out cold next to him. Amy's gaze locks onto him, a wave of pure astonishment hitting her as she witnesses the incredible transformation in his aura. The sheer power radiating from him is absolutely limitless. She gasps, barely able to speak as she looks at her master. She can tell he can still cast any spell, even the most powerful restoration magic, a level of mastery that's just insane. Davy, now wide awake, gives her a chill greeting, his voice totally unfazed. Fast forward 5 months, and everything was different, their whole vibe transformed. Deep in a vibrant forest, Amy practically screams with excitement, showing off her haul of fresh herbs. Davy playfully reminds her about dinner, and she just giggles, totally loving their new, chill life. Exactly 5 months back, ever since that artery circle was finished, their lives seriously leveled up and got way more cheerful. He thought he had the Queen's game figured out, a master plan unfolding, but now he's not so certain. She's supposed to fall right into his trap, he thinks, sensing Amy's intense help but totally clueless about her endgame, leaving him wondering if she's just another objective. But inside the castle, he feels a distinct presence, and with his insane mana, pinpointing it is child's play. Even though they've kept their distance to avoid messing with her life, his eye flares crimson, confirming the target with absolute certainty. It's none other than the Queen's informant, staff in hand, ready for anything. Meanwhile, Amy's living the good life, no food worries, just chilling and telling her cat to get clean. Standing in the open field, he demands to know who the informant is, only to find out she's just a castle maid. Armed with this new intel, they march straight for the castle gates. But lurking in the shadows, the Queen's informant remains, a silent, hooded figure. Davy, deep in thought, surveys a lavish chamber, a low hum of contemplation on his breath. Still lost in his thoughts, the low hum persists. A beat of silence, his mind a mystery. Later, a stern-faced elder looms over Davy's bed, demanding to know, "How is it?" The elder declares the prince's prolonged illness makes further treatment a burden, suggesting they halt it. But Davy, shocked, fires back, "No way. Only you can treat me." The elder lets out a frustrated snort, his thoughts seething, "Bullshit. You think I don't see you trying to swap out a young healer for an old one? I'm the prime priest, head of this household. And you, the reason he's so sick. What a joke." But Davy cuts through the pretense, declaring, "Stop sugarcoating it. You can heal me, you just won't." The elder's hand tightens into a fist, his mind racing. "I expected more from you, especially with Princess Daphne's silver gun." Yet, against all odds, he's almost fully recovered. The elder tries to lecture, "Prince, if you keep talking like that, because you don't understand," but Davy challenges him, "I don't understand." The old man can only let out a frustrated, "Humph." The priest, his hand blazing with holy power, asserts his absolute authority, proclaiming that such sacred knowledge is for priests alone, and even a princess shouldn't be so selfish. Amy, crumpled on the floor, stares up in utter distress, the harsh reality of his words sinking in, as she lashes out, accusing him of unthinkable cruelty towards the princess and branding him a fool. His face twists into a furious snarl, a chilling warning to watch her words, demanding to know how a mere maid dares to challenge him. Towering over Amy from behind, he presses his advantage, sneering if she truly believes she can teach him anything. The relentless ticking of a nearby clock amplifies the unbearable tension. Still cowering on the ground, Amy shields her face, when suddenly, a hand reaches out, a quiet voice cutting through the silence, "Hey you." The priest spins around, utterly shocked, as Davy strides into the chamber. He quickly calculates the implications, murmuring about the prince, the queen, and the maid's unexpected humanity. Amy glances up from the floor, a wave of self-doubt washing over her, convinced she's utterly insignificant. But before she can utter another sound, a hand gently, yet firmly, covers her mouth, silencing her completely. That priest? He's got a smirk that just screams trouble. Totally chill, hand resting on the table like he owns the place, and he's thinking, man, this dude's got a smile. Then, he turns to Davy, his voice practically oozing fake calm. Look how chill I am, right? Go on, tell the queen all about it. Her informant is literally right here, watching. He keeps pushing, practically daring Davy to snitch, and Davy just gives him a calm, yes. And just like he said, the queen's spies are right there, taking it all in, an orange-haired woman and a dude in a red cap, totally focused. Davy just stands there, silent, his back to us, his poker face on point. Meanwhile, that fancy shield emblem on the wall just hangs there, silently judging the whole scene. And a massive clock just keeps on ticking, hands almost at the 12. And those huge, closed doors. They're keeping all the drama locked inside. An opulent chandelier gleams overhead, but the real drama is unfolding below. A hand grips tight, a chilling voice cutting through the air, remember this. Daphne's grip on Amy's shoulder is like ice, her voice a chilling order, you have to come by yourself at night. Amy's eyes betray her fear, fixed on the ground as Daphne's chilling threat echoes, remember that the fate of the prince is in the palm of my hands. Daphne's face twists into a sneer, her voice dripping with contempt as she asks, this is, a royal maid? With a dismissive flick of her hand, she scoffs, why would I care? He's just a sick prince. Amy is left standing alone, her entire body shaking with raw fear and dread. A fancy sword hilt, sparkling with a green gem, just chilling in some opulent spot. And right next to it, a massive, empty room just sits there, waiting for someone to show up. Inside this huge, empty hall, a weird chill just hits him, like his whole body is turning to ice. He's trying to figure out what's going on inside, wondering if this crazy feeling is actually just pure, unadulterated rage, because the floor is literally cracking under his feet. Every single step he takes just booms through the room, a steady rhythm to his intense thoughts. He's like, no way, I didn't work this hard at the temple just to throw away my dignity now, and Daphne's warning about losing control and acting like an animal is totally stuck in his head. But even with all that self-talk, his real thoughts are going in a completely different direction. He keeps walking, but inside, his mind is on a whole other level. A sudden, sharp cry of shock rips through the opulent hall. As the prince strides forward, a faint, crackling blue aura radiating from his form, an unseen voice barely managing to utter his title. Adequate rage, they say, is the very spring of life, and can also be the most potent fuel for your ambitions. His barely contained fury manifests, leaving a trail of fractured stone in his wake, a stark testament to the raw, untamed power simmering beneath his calm exterior. If laziness is the spring of life, then rage would be its unstoppable driving force. The grand chandelier above hangs silently, but one must always keep in mind the consequences. While a bald official, his face a mask of grave concern, discusses the dire implications of such an act, questioning if it amounts to an assassination of royalty. The bearded informant, standing firm and resolute, confirms his earlier statements to both the messenger and the guard captain. Meanwhile, a young woman, her expression etched with worry, ponders aloud who truly stands on Prince Davy's side in these turbulent times. The bald official, now addressing a larger assembly with fervent conviction, declares that no one would dare oppose the queen, asserting that the kingdom's very swords and shields are hers alone. Unaware or utterly unconcerned by the swirling political machinations, the prince continues his solitary walk, a quiet, almost dismissive affirmation escaping his lips. He's free-falling, sword in hand, a wild grin playing on his lips as he thinks, yeah, I needed an excuse for this. He slams onto a balcony, the impact shaking the very structure, as if defying the queen's authority with his reckless arrival. He hits the ground, face-planting hard, but even then, he's shouting his loyalty to the queen. Moments later, standing tall before a nervous maid, Davy Orwain just drops her name, Amy, with a look that could melt steel. A bearded courtier nearby is absolutely floored, his jaw dropping as he struggles to comprehend what he's witnessing. Then, the young prince coolly shifts his gaze to the flabbergasted official, and just asks, can I move now? The official, finally snapping out of it, explodes in a furious rant, screaming about how low-class people can't get promoted and how they never needed dirty magic anyway. Amy, hearing the brutal insults, is absolutely stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief. With a chillingly stern face, Davy Orwain whips his head back to Amy, and drops the hammer. Didn't I tell you not to tell twice? Amy's eyes go wide with pure terror, her hands flying to her face as the chilling words about blasphemy against royalty hit her like a physical blow. But before the informant can even finish his threat, Davy Orwain's finger snaps forward, a faint, ominous glow already sparking from his hand as he cuts the man off mid-sentence. That's a declaration that instantly transforms into a brutal, kinetic strike, slamming the bearded informant down to his knees with a sickening thud. As the man stumbles back, Davy's hand ignites with a blinding light, an ethereal, razor-sharp blade of pure, raw energy manifesting in his grip. The blade finds its mark with brutal precision, and a dark, glowing pool of blood explodes across the pristine floor, leaving behind a jagged shard of corrupted magic. Clutching his chest in sheer agony, the informant chokes for breath, his pained cries barely able to force out the words, Kyuk. Kyuk. The Queen. Standing coolly beside a still-shaken Amy in the opulent hall, he ponders the massive implications of the Holy Land, a place of unimaginable power and influence. A subtle, confident smirk plays on his lips, his gaze dropping just slightly as he effortlessly processes the entire situation. Gazing towards the brilliant light pouring through a massive window, he coolly acknowledges the informant's warning, but then drops a confident, chilling guarantee of his own. In a world where being different meant certain doom. The next chapter unfolds. In the lavish palace, a furious voice screams, "You must be crazy." Davy, with a subtle blush, coolly contemplates, to kill none other. The Queen, utterly distraught, gasps, "Then the disgrace from the Holy Land?" She presses him, "How could you do that if you hurt?" But he coolly retorts, "I punished him according to the law. Is there something wrong with that?" Her face twisting in rage, the Queen snarls, "This bastard." She reveals the man slipped into a coma, but he brushes it off, claiming the injury wasn't critical. Even with everything that happened in the royal silence, Davy can't help but note the bitter irony. He, the enforcer of the law, is the one being reprimanded. Davy Orwain is not having it. He's standing there, thinking this whole situation is just wild. But the Queen. She's fuming. She's laying into him, saying he totally overstepped his authority. She's getting even angrier, completely shutting down any excuses for what he did to that informant. Davy doesn't even flinch. He fires back with a brutal insult, telling her brain's empty and that the Holy Land is about to drop a complaint. He keeps pushing, saying she got her stupidity from her mom, then quickly corrects himself with a smirk. The Queen lets out a furious "tsk" and calls him a shallow being. She keeps going, even dragging his mom into it, and suddenly, a blue magical aura starts to glow around Davy. His eyes flash crimson, a dangerous warning as he tells her it's not cool to curse someone's parents right to their face. Whoosh! A massive burst of energy explodes from him, sending the Queen reeling back, her hand flying up to block the raw power. With a surge of raw power, he absolutely shattered the magical chains that held him, leaving them as mere dust in his wake. Meanwhile, a bizarre carrot and spoon combo just existed, defying all logic. Back in the palace, the Queen and her crew were sent reeling from the sheer force of his magic, a purple energy blast still radiating. His eyes blazing crimson, he flashed a defiant smirk, a chilling "ha," echoing his absolute dominance. Meanwhile, a mysterious blindfolded figure, their face hidden, extended a hand, dropping a cryptic line, "It's good to test your loyalty." Out of nowhere, a cold blade pressed against the Queen's throat, as a hidden attacker sneered, "Honestly, it would have been way more fun if you put up a better fight." Completely oblivious or just not caring about the Queen's life-or-death situation, Davy just chilled out in a chair, coolly declaring, "Whatever. I'm not gonna sweat it. Doesn't matter if you live or die, or anyone else for that matter." He just kicked back, totally relaxed, his whole vibe screaming, "I don't care." The Queen, her face a twisted mess of rage and shock, was absolutely fuming. The Queen's eyes snap open, a chilling realization dawning on her face. She can barely breathe out the words. He knew. She thinks, he knew Carlos was the culprit this whole time. But from above, Davy Orwain just stares down, completely unfazed. He's thinking, yeah, that's right. Of course I knew. I'm not dumb enough to keep a useless person around for long. Honestly, such petty drama just isn't his style. He then turns to Daphne, cool as a cucumber, and asks, "I'm tired, so can you just go back?" Then he drops a bombshell, "I knew you were the culprit the moment I saw the prince's cheek." Daphne is stunned, barely able to whisper, "You can't." Back with the Queen, she's pulling herself together, surrounded by her loyal attendants. She snaps, "And please, act more ladylike in my palace. As you can clearly see, the very stones of this building." Completely oblivious to the Queen's renewed resolve, Davy keeps talking to Daphne, "I'm an excellent judge of character. You saw right through all my tricks. So, I'll let you be my maid. I need you as my maid. Because in an emergency, you'll be the only one I can truly trust. Daphne blushes, finding his words a little too much, but he just keeps pushing. You can handle that, right, Daphne? But the queen is not backing down. Her resolve is ironclad as she declares, I won't just stand by while you act out like I did before. A distant figure unleashes a frustrated roar, quickly followed by a cold, dismissive humph. A group of maids recoil, their collective gasp echoing the sheer audacity of the moment. The blonde woman crashes to the floor, her face hidden by a cascade of hair, a raw cry of anguish tearing from her. The lavish chamber is plunged into a stunned silence, broken only by the impact of her fall and the hushed gasps of the witnesses, as Daphne looms over her, while Davy watches the drama unfold. Even from the floor, the blonde woman's defiance burns, as she spits, keep acting out like that. Her voice trembling with disbelief, she challenges her tormentor, you think you can do this to me? It's a stark reminder that true blindness comes from arrogance and pride, obscuring the truth. A majestic castle dominates the horizon, its very silhouette a powerful statement, the moment for decisive action is now. The palace was buzzing with the expected drama, as the crowd gossiped about the first prince, totally writing him off as a useless nobody. One maid, catching the juicy gossip, snapped at her friends to keep it down. So, after the priest got what he deserved and the queen got her warning, a maid was practically flying through the palace. A letter, all about the first prince, Davy, just landed. Davy just chilled, buried in his book, while the political storm brewed. The letter spilled the tea, half the capital was Team Queen, so his reputation was totally trashed. Her eyes glowing with pure panic, a maid screamed for the queen, totally freaking out. Amy, loaded with even more mail, declared that a fresh batch of letters just dropped. Davy, barely glancing up, just sighed, again, then gave a quick thanks for her hard work. A man in glasses, book in hand, ponders his image, asking if anyone out there actually sees his good side. He glances at a tablet, a slight smirk forming as he challenges, so, you think I'm a good guy, huh? An orange-haired maid, beaming with pure sincerity, instantly shouts back, absolutely. Her instant, heartfelt reply makes him stop and think, how can she be so pure, even after witnessing him take a life right in front of her? It's a thought that sometimes crosses his mind. The maid, deep in thought, seems to be processing his words, ultimately deciding that he's just an incredible individual. Elsewhere, Prince Davy Orawain surveys a bowing crowd from a balcony, as one figure declares, all hail the kingdom's rising star. Davy spots familiar faces in the bowing crowd, the same informants who trashed his name. Now, they're here to meet the crown prince himself. He observes that all the spies from his private quarters have vanished, yet he still recognizes some of these faces right here. Back inside, Davy talks embellishment and fleecing with the man in glasses, who wonders if this is standard practice. Davy coolly states it's not unusual, just situational. The very gossips who once slandered him now groveled at his feet, pleading for mercy. A chilling light glinted in his eyes, as he weighed their desperate pleas. He then turned to the orange-haired maid, casually asking, there's been an interesting rumor circulating recently. The whispers painted him as a prince who was crazy for blood. He pondered, should he just lean into that terrifying persona? But the orange-haired maid, ever loyal, declared her happiness serving a good person, making him smirk and challenge her conviction. Then, a new player entered the scene, Besfus, who simply acknowledged his presence. Later, gazing out a window with the maid, he dropped the bombshell, he wasn't good, just a prince who was a master actor. The ultimate twist? The queen was behind it all. This just got interesting, and he was ready to play her game. Davy's eyes narrow, the fate of the informant sealed, beheaded in just 9 days. Suddenly, Besfus, the chamberlain, appears, bowing low as he delivers a critical message from the queen herself. He reveals the queen's move, she's filling all the empty positions on Davy's personal staff, a clear power play. But Davy isn't playing by her rules. He instantly demands the green-eyed maid be made his personal attendant, with a massive pay raise and bonus. With a chilling calm, he agrees to the queen's demands, but his mind is already working. Then, he drops a bombshell, is an audience with my father, the king, forbidden? Besfus confirms the restriction, and Davy's gaze hardens, demanding to know if it's the king's will, or the queen's manipulation. The chamberlain insists he's just the messenger, a fact Davy already knew, but the tension is palpable. Davy sees through it all, acknowledging the game, as Besfus warns him to tread with extreme caution. Processing the heavy implications of the recent conversation, Besfus could only manage a thoughtful, huh. Meanwhile, Davy, ever the strategist, wrapped things up, declaring his exit with a quick, oh, right, as an afterthought. Back in his lavish quarters, Besfus's mind drifted to the provisions he'd left, the food, the clothes, the gold, all meant for healing. He pondered if these new power dynamics meant everything else was about to flip too. A sly chuckle escaped his lips, but he played dumb, pretending not to know a thing. Then, with a cryptic smile, he declared someone's kindness had been blessed, leaving his listener utterly bewildered. Meanwhile, Amy dropped a bombshell: a special guest was coming tomorrow, and she'd be off, her mind racing. How did he even know that? With a crisp, "Please have some rest," she was done. But as the message sank in, a subtle, otherworldly glow began to pulse from a waiting hand. "He's got this glowing ring, totally focused," while some unseen voice is like, "Dude, you're looking for evidence, but it's right there. He's just strolling through the palace," and the voice keeps going, dropping the bombshell that it's Besvis, the Grand Chamberlain, the ultimate boss of everyone working for the king. And then the voice drops another bomb, saying that besides Amy, literally no one else in the palace was on their side, all while holding some tiny, glowing thing. Later, he's checking out a book, and it's like, wait, didn't Besvis say something about this? A total lightbulb moment. Out of nowhere, this tiny, green-haired chibi-like figure pops out from behind a door, all shy, and whispers, Your Majesty. Super cute, super unexpected. This tiny, winged creature, who's apparently the fourth princess's handmaid, it's called Amy by someone off-screen, but that's not quite right. This little green sprite, eyes sparkling with pure excitement, just zooms straight at him, screaming, "Brother," while he's just sitting there, totally shocked. She latches onto his head, hugging him super tight, and with all the love in the world, she's like, "Brother. It's Winky. So cute. It's Winky Al Roan, an ancient fairy from the Roan Kingdom, and she's officially here, bringing all the fairy magic with her." Winky's eyes snap wide open, a stunned "oh" escaping her. She zips down, demanding to know if he's okay, while he's utterly floored, only able to stammer, "I see." Daphne, meanwhile, is completely aghast, a tiny "what" escaping her lips. Winky then spills it all, detailing the insane difficulty of tracking him, declaring her intent to replace Amy and stick by his side, her voice practically vibrating with adoration as she shouts, "Brother," and playfully scolds his recklessness. She practically tackles him with affection, repeating, "Brother," thrilled to finally see him, leaving Davy completely bewildered, wondering what in the world is going on. Meet Barisi Al Roan, the current king of the Dawn Kingdom, rocking that royal vibe with his back to us. This king's got a whole squad, 3 wives, including Queen Lady Rabbit, plus 2 concubines, Alice and Anisha, chilling with another lady. But the royal court is brutal, and someone always ends up an outsider among the wives, a topic Anisha and the other woman seem to be deep in conversation about. And get this, Barisi is also the dad to Winley Al Roan, who, like her siblings, has the same father but different moms. Winley, looking totally bummed, is like, "My bad for causing a scene." Elsewhere, a green-haired dude shouts, "Brother," looking completely caught off guard. Then, bam. He gets blindsided by some unseen attack, flying backward with a shocked, "Whoa." Totally dazed, the guy yells, "What are you even doing, Winley?" Winley's foot connects, sending her brother reeling as he shouts, "Why are you acting so weird?" With a furious glare, she snaps, "You're the one who wanted to see our brother first, remember?" A furious orange energy erupts around her as she screams, "How dare you speak to your older brother like that?" He scoffs, "Older brother my ass," a tiny voice in his mind wondering if he's even allowed to say Majesty. Yet, for all their fighting, they're 2 peas in a pod, and the whispers about them being raised with orphans? Totally true. She keeps yelling, "You caused that whole mess. You said you'd be king." He's like, "What did I do?" He thinks his brother would back him up, but she just shuts him down, "Stop joking." Even amidst the chaos, Winley bursts out laughing, shouting, "Brother." He yells back, equally frustrated. Someone watching thinks, yeah, there's still those close siblings who actually listen to each other, even as she tells him to cut the laughter and he calls her name again. His mind screams, "Don't talk nonsense," as he's launched flying. 6 years. That's how long it's been since everything went down. He only caught a glimpse of the chaos, a quick whisper about someone trapped by a concubine's scheme, unable to escape. And then, the real drama began. Thinking back to those dark days, the green-haired brother can't help but ask, seriously, what could those helpless kids even do back then? And if that wasn't enough drama, the concubine Anisha, with her stunning blue hair, was caught in the crossfire. Queenliness schemes forced Anisha to send her first daughter, Tana, to a foreign kingdom, leaving her desperate to protect her last 2 kids. Winky, taking it all in, nods with a knowing look, "It's fine, I get it." But even with all that, the common folk just can't seem to wrap their heads around it. Davy, lost in his own thoughts, asks, "Even though you weren't his father?" He quickly adds, "Yeah, we met him before he was even supposed to be born." Then, a worried thought, "How's he doing now?" Winky, a sudden thought hitting her, exclaims, "Hold on, brother." She continues, "He was so distant." And, her voice drops as she asks, "Have you even met Dad?" Winky Al Roan, tucked away in her bed, dreams of the day she'll finally meet their father. Later, standing with her brother, she drops a bombshell, reminding him, "Brother, we saw this on the way here." The royal palace gleams with gold and marble, a silent witness to their conversation. His mind races back to a time when he was chasing money, thinking it was the key to his father's heart, only to realize it was all a massive mistake. But even with that realization, the past still haunts him. As he remembers the others caught up in the chaos, muttering, they did all that. But Winky isn't backing down, declaring, while knowing you're going to retire in your room, I'm going to go find my father. Don't waste your effort on me. Her brother can only let out a frustrated gasp, but... Alone, he ponders her words and the burning question of his father's abandonment, asking himself, why did he leave me alone? A strange, almost forgotten sensation flickers, a phantom touch, but he shrugs it off, convinced it's just his mind playing tricks. Across from him, Daphne, ever the provocateur, teases that he never had that kind of talent anyway, noting his shock at recent developments and declaring the whole spectacle would be utterly boring without him. Davy's mind races, a whirlwind of conflicting emotions leaving him utterly bewildered. Should he be thrilled or devastated? Then, the bombshell drops, Daphne casually mentions a swordsmanship competition, and Davy's eyes go wide, a stunned, oh, shit, escaping his lips. But Daphne isn't taking no for an answer, her voice firm as she declares he's trapped, his master plan is flawless, and he will compete, because they're going to crown him the next emperor. The sheer audacity of her statement leaves him speechless, only a choked, ahem, escaping his lips as he tries to process the magnitude of it all. Resigned, he presses the seal into the hot wax, his fate now officially stamped. Clutching the sealed decree, he mutters about this being the legendary swordsmanship competition that only happens once every 5 years, a low hope escaping him. The official document lays it all out, a colossal competition spanning every single continent. He's trying to wrap his head around this competition, asking if it's like the Olympics, while Winky breaks down that it's a mix of mercenaries and knights, all kinds of people. Seeing a chance to finally break free from the palace's confines, he's already plotting his next move, making a direct request to the queen. But hold up. His solo adventure plans are instantly derailed as Winky and her brother, practically vibrating with excitement, demand to tag along. He's having none of it, shutting them down immediately. My plan doesn't involve you guys, he snaps, reminding them they're way too young to be real hunters. But they're not taking no for an answer. The twins literally grab him, trying to drag him into their scheme. His brother, with that smug, determined grin, lays down the law, you're stuck with us. Later, back at the table, the twins hit him with an offer, their faces practically glowing with mischief. And with a quick flick of the wrist, they launch something into the air. He storms off, totally fed up, yelling at them to stop decorating his palace, as Winky, ever the innocent, wonders if he's actually happy about it. He reflects on his past, realizing he's barely stepped foot outside the palace walls. But now, he feels it's time to truly experience the world, at least once. Quill in hand, he solidifies his resolve, knowing he can totally make his mark. A thoughtful expression crosses his face, as he takes a contemplative sip. Looking up with a slight smile, he declares his anticipation, and even mentions Winley's involvement. He's got such a complex, almost double personality. Meanwhile, a goblet is filled with a rich, red liquid, as all eyes turn to the upcoming swordsmanship competition. Barisi is also growing up fast, turning 14 this year and almost an adult. It's expected that he and Winley should be having a chat right about now. A mysterious, ornate chain dangles, hinting at unseen forces at play. Meanwhile, Besfus, ever the astute observer, can't help but smile, noting the young master's incredible transformation and newfound composure. His composure and sharp intellect have skyrocketed, leaving even his closest observers stunned by his rapid development. Besfus pauses, a thoughtful sip from his tea, his mind clearly racing with the implications of such rapid growth. Daphne and Amy can only stare, barely a year has passed, yet so much has changed, while the young master, despite his growth, seems to carry a heavy, unspoken sorrow. Besfus, still deep in thought, considers the implications of these swift developments. A quiet room, but a framed portrait hints at a deeper story, a silent presence. Daphne, captured in the portrait, seems to give her blessing, a look of pure satisfaction on her face. Davy, ever the strategist, stands with a knowing smile, clearly plotting his next move. He'd been dodging the palace staff for over 8 hours, a feat made possible only because the Grand Chamberlain secretly cut down on the number of maids and servants. Amy, completely blown away, stares at the massive, palace-like structure, her jaw practically on the floor. She whips around to Davy, totally shocked, shouting that she can't believe it's actually gone. Davy thinks about the orange-haired informant, finding her super interesting, but then he's like, did I go too far? The orange-haired informant steps up, directly asking him, what's up with his presence here? The clock ticks, the moment is here. Is everything set? Has Amy got it all packed? A bit bewildered, Amy gets handed a crucial package, told to guard it with her life. The doors creak open. Davy and Amy are on the move, heading straight for the Polisti Kingdom. A massive flag whips in the breeze, signaling the epic event about to unfold. This is it, the Continental Swordsmanship Competition, a global spectacle with massive implications. Even if you're just watching, a win by Barisi could skyrocket the Empire's prestige beyond belief. Davy's there, front and center, but his mind is racing. The Queen just greenlit his competition entry, even though it could totally mess up Prince Carlo's position. What's her game? Is she just banking on him failing? Or is there something way darker brewing, a heavy thump hinting at hidden agendas? Daphne makes her exit, and Davy's eyes follow her. All while Crown Prince Barisi Al Roan, the actual king of Roan Kingdom, holds court from his throne. He's thinking about Daphne, his fiancée, who he hasn't laid eyes on in a whole year since he left home. Suddenly, the king's voice snaps him out of it, a sharp command to raise your heads. Barisi then throws down the gauntlet, demanding to know if he's truly confident, and Davy's answer is a resounding yes. His green-haired brother gives him a final send-off, telling him to come back safe after repping their kingdom in the swordsmanship competition. He strides away from the royal court, Daphne right there with him. Their presence commanding attention as they move through the opulent halls. But then, she's gone, leaving him alone with his swirling thoughts. A faint blue aura ignites around him as he declares. He's not about to waste any more emotion on the king. Even as his green-haired brother shoots him a puzzled look. Davy just gives him a nod, brother. But the reality of his position hits hard, this is the current king. He commands himself, listen. The fourth prince, Davy Orwain, entering the Continental Swordsmanship Competition. An impossible situation. They're going to eliminate him during the festival, erasing every last trace of his heroic, confident past. Sitting on the throne, someone's totally noticing how much Davy has transformed. And the empty throne just kinda echoes with this weird, faint sound. He's like an ancient lion, totally over everything. But then, a little rustle from behind the curtain, and boom. It's Winky, peeking out with that classic mischievous grin. Then she's chilling with Davy at a table, asking if he's bored yet. He's like, yeah, but she's all, nah, we've been waiting forever for this, and it's not cool when they kill animals right in front of us. Davy's just not buying it, but Winky doubles down, saying nobody wants to be slaughtered in public. Then, with a cheeky sparkle in her eye, she's like, no way it's boring, because he's got something awesome planned. She shoves a bottle of wine at him, promising everything's fine. But Davy's not impressed, saying it's not even worth drinking, even though Winky's raving about it being her absolute favorite, super fragrant wine. He's like, whoa, where'd you even get this super rare grape wine? And Winky spills the tea, it was his mom's, but she doesn't have all the deets. Winky's eyes light up. Davy's stunned, asking if he can really drink something so rare, but she fires back, teasing him about leaving such a treasure for just anyone. No way, she declares, we're drinking this together, right now. Davy's jaw drops, really? Winky grins, confirming it, and then drops a bombshell, you used to love being nagged by your mom, Miss Amy. Even the tiny glasses feel too fancy for him, he admits, as Winky flawlessly pours the exquisite drink, giving herself a good job. Glasses clink. Davy approves, I like how you think. Then, a resounding, cheers. As night falls, the massive full moon dominates the sky, bathing everything in its ethereal light. Around a roaring campfire, Davy makes the call, we're heading out tomorrow morning. Winky points out the epic trek still ahead to the Palisty Kingdom, but Davy, ever the stoic, just shrugs it off, the capital's far, but I'm fine. Isn't Winky? She asks, as Davy internally muses about how he somehow convinced her to go somewhere else. Winky breaks down, confessing it's all too much as Davy holds her close, a heartfelt apology escaping her lips while he offers silent comfort. Later, under the stars by a roaring campfire, Winky throws back a memory, reminding him he always wanted to camp like this, then declares her hands will soon be too busy to cause any more embarrassment. He just nods, a silent understanding passing between them. Beneath the moon's ethereal glow, Winky opens up, recalling the unforgettable day etched in her memory, and how the upcoming journey would push her patience to its limits. She then ponders the very essence of change, wondering if, amidst all the transformations, some things are destined to stay exactly the same. Davy glances down, a subtle smile gracing his face as he declares his appreciation for the moment, a simple, thanks, hanging in the air. Their intimate moment is suddenly broken by Amy, who steps forward, respectfully insisting that Her Majesty should finally get some rest. Gazing skyward, Davy notes the moon's extraordinary brilliance tonight, his mind captivated by its powerful glow. A soft rustle whispers through the tree branches, as the night unfolds around them. He stands, sword ready, surrounded by an explosion of vibrant green energy, his mind already racing with possibilities. This is the perfect moment for a comeback, he declares. As a blazing streak tears through the heavens, drawing his eyes to the twin celestial bodies. Right? The orange-haired informant drops a bombshell, revealing the red one is Cyrus. And the blue one? That's Arias. But Davy is clearly over it, muttering that this is basic knowledge, something even a snotty kid would grasp. He's already way ahead. He lets out an exasperated sigh, thinking he'd rather be having this kind of chat with a woman. Out of nowhere, the green-haired prince pops up, demanding to know why he's talking to himself. Davy spins around, startled, as the prince points out the shadowy figures on the ground, asking why he's even bothering with them. With a confident smirk, Davy drops the bomb. It was all his own phantom magic. He clarifies that there were 5 of these things, but now only 2 are left, and 4 of them are masters of dark arts and shadow magic. Under a full moon, a dark projectile slices through the air, a chilling prelude to chaos. Clutching a glowing blue crystal, he coolly remarks, "Nothing big, right? Like, oh, I don't know, being targeted by assassins." His mind races, picturing Alice, a woman battling her own dark urges, and his green-haired brother, forced into a risky position, all while wondering if his own family is caught in the crossfire. A fierce resolve hardens his gaze as he declares, "This is clearly that woman's doing. A perfect opportunity to eliminate me, Barisi, and even Winley." He's absolutely convinced she'd never pass up an opportunity like this. As his shadowy phantom entities swirl around him, he admits, "Honestly, I'm not thrilled about risking exposure and drawing suspicion." But a chilling calm washes over him. Ultimately, it just doesn't matter. A dazzling blue energy barrier erupts around him, as he ponders the fate of anyone who dares to see him like this. He gazes skyward, and a colossal, white, wing-like aura explodes behind him, his phantom entities swirling into a protective vortex as his true power awakens. A lightning-fast swing rips through the air, leaving a brutal impact and a searing mark on its target. And just like that, the scene shifts, with birds scattering into the sky, leaving a moment of eerie calm. Davy, deep in thought among the ancient trees, recalls the wisdom of his legendary swordsmanship teacher, Pesig Dugo Jun. It's not just about having the right weapon, it's about mastering its use. He tightens his grip on his blade, the words echoing in his mind, "Any object can be a weapon if you know how to use it, and that's a lesson you never forget." Then, with a blinding, fluid motion, he unleashes a devastating swing, proving that a true weapon is just an extension of your own will. His sword flares with an intense blue light, shifting into its ultimate form as he prepares to unleash the legendary 9th form of the Blade God's swordsmanship. The glowing blade slams down with explosive power, sending shockwaves tearing through everything. His eyes burn with a fierce, subtle glow as he surveys the aftermath, a single, dismissive thought cutting through the air. Is that seriously all they had? He's thinking, these guys. They're not even in the same league as Hermesa, the one who taught him the literal hand of death. Just looking at these chumps, he's already over it, calling them nothing but boring bastards. He turns, looking for answers, just needing to confirm one thing. Suddenly, a blue aura explodes around him as he shouts, "This is their reward for trying to bull rush him." He's not backing down, telling them to just leave if they're not going to talk. But then, a mysterious cloaked figure steps forward, completely unfazed, telling him straight up that his death won't change a thing. His eyes blaze crimson, a raw surge of power and fury twisting his face as he starts to wonder, what did that woman even do? The thought of 3 royalties being involved. That would absolutely shatter the entire kingdom. Even queenliness would be in serious trouble with this kind of mess, so why is this cloaked figure so incredibly confident? A mysterious figure, cloaked in shadow, stands surrounded by an eerie glow of countless candles. Their light barely cutting through the deep, unsettling darkness of a menacing forest where something massive and shadowy lurks. Then, out of nowhere, a brutal spray of blood explodes, followed by agonizing screams. While Davy is sprawled on the ground, observing a figure desperately trying to escape. He can't believe they're still here, demanding to know why they haven't run yet. Springing up, staff ready, he stares down at a tiny, shadowy entity, mocking their ignorance of the chaos about to erupt. Elsewhere, 2 shadowy cloaked figures lurk in the woods, one barking a chilling order, "Go and tell her." The leader of the cloaked figures then makes a chilling declaration, promising total destruction, regardless of her complaints. Without warning, a barrage of glowing projectiles rockets towards Davy, launching him skyward. But he touches down with an unyielding gaze, sword ready, a dark, powerful aura pulsing from his core. Suddenly, he's swarmed. Multiple figures converge, their voices echoing, "You really think you can take us all on by yourself?" But wait, that projectile. A total fake. Just a random movement skill to throw him off. The decoy works. He's instantly blasted by a flurry of glowing blue projectiles, a diffusion of raw energy exploding around him. He hits the dirt, stunned, wondering how his defenses could have possibly failed. But just as quickly, he's back up. He scoffs, "You might be assassins, but you're no warriors. It's time for a real fight." Meanwhile, the mysterious cloaked figure watches, dropping a chilling line, "No one left to protect. Abandoned world. Don't forget it." A dark, raw energy explodes from him, his eyes burning crimson. Davy is ready to unleash hell on the remaining attackers. He leaps, a blur of motion, striking his enemies and daring them, "You'll have to come at me with more." But as the chaos erupts, one of the attackers bails, running for his life, leaving the rest to face Davy's fury. The green energy blades kept coming, slamming into him with a blinding flash, but he barely flinched. The relentless barrage of blades kept him on the defensive, but his resolve was unbreakable. His opponent sneered, mocking the green blades as utterly useless. But Davy just looked up, a silent storm brewing behind his eyes. Then, a lock-on system message blazed to life, as he extended his hand, revealing he'd been ready for them from the start. A crimson energy ripped through the air, Davy declaring that without the random movement skill, there was no dodging this. He unleashed a devastating combo, blasting an enemy with Confuse, Lower Resist, and the explosive Soul Explosion. The impact was absolutely brutal, and he grimly admitted the savagery of his tactics, a lesson taught by their own cruelty. The enemy dropped, meeting their definitive end. Davy Orwain stands amidst a barren wasteland, his gaze fixed on a distant glow. The air crackles with a chilling declaration, "It's a perfect assassination." The statement is repeated, cementing the brutal success of the unseen act. A mysterious purple mist hangs heavy, hinting at unseen forces at play. Daphne, looking super worried, demands to know, how did it go? Davy, facing away, drops a bombshell, all the guards at the northern gate, have been wiped out. The ruined land below screams of total annihilation. He spins around, his voice dripping with shock, they've been wiped out. Daphne, stone-faced, just says, yes. But Daphne isn't done, pushing for more info, and about those, she probes, hinting at the earlier, dismissive claim that, they would have just been a few goblin knights. The orange-haired informant cuts in, totally unconvinced, just how are you so sure of that? The sheer devastation makes the, just goblins, claims sound ridiculous. She keeps going, absolutely floored, but you're telling me that 20 people went and died by, when Besfus drops the bomb, the Black Knights were part of that raid. The ruined landscape below screams of a far deadlier foe. A mysterious cloaked figure, their face hidden, wraps up the tense discussion with a chilling statement, we are still investigating what happened. A mysterious voice drops a bombshell, Prince Davy, the guy everyone's watching, just got himself a helper. Cut to Alice, fuming on her fancy throne, totally baffled about who'd ever helped those halfies. You can practically feel her frustration, her eyes squeezed shut in pure annoyance. Elsewhere, Barisi is deep in thought, pondering what happens if they hit the millionth mark, then confidently states he'll find out soon, dropping a harsh truth, working with a failure always ends in failure. Over in another room, the green-haired brother is looking seriously worried, knowing full well what's on the line if he messes up again. Barisi isn't holding back, laying down the law, our contract's over. I'll live my life just like I have for years, all thanks to the Black Moon Queen. A spooky gothic castle looms under a full moon, while someone coolly confirms they'll keep that in mind. Suddenly, under a brilliant blue sky, a frantic shout rings out, brother! Brother! Winky and her brother are full-on sprinting towards a massive castle, shouting, that's the Polisti Kingdom. They've made it. The green-haired prince is absolutely stunned, gazing out from a high balcony at the Polisti Kingdom. This place might be smaller than his old world Singapore, but it's built on an epic scale, making it one of the most powerful cities on the entire continent. A huge grin spreads across his face as Winky catches his eye, totally calling him out on how happy he is. But wait, there's more. This epic city isn't just for show, it's the battleground for the Continental Swordsmanship competition, and the streets are absolutely packed with warriors and fans. Meanwhile, from the shadows, two mysterious figures are watching the whole thing go down, one praising the Talent Scouts, while the other just scoffs, calling it all barbarous. He's totally lost, asking where they even are, feeling super weak from the mana extraction, and sensing this weird, powerful aura all around them. He keeps going, dropping the bomb that every kingdom is hosting, so this whole competition is basically a country versus country showdown. He's kinda bored seeing the same old faces, but he knows this is huge for the next generation, a competition the whole continent is gonna be glued to. Out of nowhere, Winky, looking totally ticked off, snaps at him, asking if he's just pretending she's not even there. Davy just smoothly turns, a smirk on his face, and tells the princess, chill, I'm obviously here for our date. But that's just a playful front, because his real power, a mid-level wizard's might, starts to erupt in a blazing crimson aura, a legendary name from the swordsman's past, totally mind-blowing for someone his age, something on a whole other level. Winky, completely unbothered by his power-up, just casually drops that the Empress is actually the princess of the Pelian Empire. Davy, now super serious, freaks out, like, how do you not know that name? Everyone in the Pelian Kingdom knows that name. He thinks to himself, man, I usually remember everything, but it looks like someone big showed up while I was out cold. Suddenly, a new legend emerges, Elena de Fallon, poised and ready for anything. But she's not just any princess, she's the Fallon Kingdom's only princess, one of 9. And get this, she's even the Crown Prince's absolute favorite sister. Why is she so special? Because she's a literal god sword wielder. Just hearing "God Sword Wielder" makes jaws drop, as a divine blade blazes into existence. And her insane skills? They come from her first teacher, the Empress, who was none other than the legendary sword goddess herself. But wait, there's more. Another warrior, a total powerhouse, had insane skills too, rocking the Demon Lord's sword, a name so epic, it literally made people's ears bleed. Even the Empress herself seems to remember this legendary weapon, muttering, was that the sword killer, the Demon Lord's blade? All this ancient power and legend stands in total contrast to the current scene, with Pegasus Dokgo-jun chilling at the demonic academy. He explains that it's normal for someone from this place to leave a mark somewhere. But it still feels kind of strange to him. Meanwhile, Daphne stares at a ring in her hand, a soft "no" escaping her lips as she questions what it could possibly be. The discussion shifts to the legendary god's sword, Caldera's, a blade said to be utterly indestructible. It's rumored to possess an absorbed ego, manifesting incredible magic. This ego, a sword spirit, is born from its maker's soul and the swordsman's love, truly earning its title as a god's sword for a reason. The green-haired prince wonders about the priceless nature of such swords, suggesting they should be kept clean, but Davy feels there's a deeper secret at play. His brother confirms Davy's sharp insight with an emphatic yes. Davy's mind explodes with connections to the sword spirit, questioning why he should even bother with the personal affairs of Prince Caldera's, his uncle, who should be the one dealing with this. He lets out a soft sigh, his expression one of mild annoyance as Amy, his attendant, questions his lack of enthusiasm for the upcoming event. She beams, reminding him that it is his very first banquet, a grand occasion. But he simply dismisses her excitement, stating that his dignity already represents his own kingdom, even if he doesn't particularly care for such formalities. He insists he is merely a spectator to these royal affairs, which include the Continental Swordsmanship Coalition Petition, a gathering where representatives from various countries meet to discuss matters of great importance. Amy, meanwhile, spots his brother among the attendees, a familiar face in the bustling crowd. She continues to press him, reminding him that royalties are very simple-natured, and he should simply enjoy himself. She even suggests he could pretend to be a fairy, a playful jab at his detached demeanor. Amy then points out a small, glowing ring on her finger, a subtle hint at something more. High above the crowd, a blonde noblewoman pivots to the orange-haired informant, her voice dropping to a whisper, "Your Majesty." With a steady gaze, the blonde noblewoman then laid out the real reason for this whole affair, proclaiming it a gracious opportunity for the younger generation to build new friendships. The orange-haired informant just scoffed at the friendship talk, her mind already on her recent village visit, wondering about the stadium. Her fingers brushing a glowing rose, she casually remarked that it wasn't half bad. Bringing the rose to her lips, she added with a subtle sneer, "For a place so utterly barbaric." The Continental Swordsmanship competition is about to go down, and the hype in the Grand Hall is absolutely electric. And in the crowd, the orange-haired informant and the green-haired brother are totally locked in, watching everything go down. Someone sipping on some wine, and the big question on their mind is, are these seriously all the contenders for the Continental Swordsmanship competition? Davy's checking out the scene, and he's like, whoa, these guys are super young for an age-restricted competition. The orange-haired informant chimes in, not many people are here just to accompany participants, like Winley and me, but there are still a ton of young talents. But out of everyone there, one person was clearly the biggest deal, the most popular of them all. Davy's jaw drops as he hears the big reveal, "Pleasure to meet you, I'm the Prince of the Yggdrasil Kingdom." Pegasus Dokgo-jun just dropped his royal intro, and Davy's over here like, okay, maybe I should introduce myself too. Davy Orwain makes his grand entrance into the packed hall, with Daphne and Sister Hypoxia right there, and he's already thinking some of these competitors are just too easy to read. But hold up, another rising star, Winley, is totally stealing the spotlight, swarmed by fans, with Winky the fairy right there in the mix. It's a total madhouse, he realizes, thinking, how am I even supposed to get near the prince with all this chaos? Suddenly, Davy swoops in, offering Winley a dance, and Winky is all over it, shouting, yes, and calling him, Prince. But before Winley can even blink, a massive flap and a powerful gust of wind blast him and Winky to the floor, as Pegasus Dokgo-jun materializes, towering over them with a smug grin. Pegasus Dokgo-jun just smirks, telling the stunned kid to enjoy his youth like it's nothing. Then, a huge announcement booms across the hall, Lady Marin is back. And then, Elena de Fallon, looking absolutely stunning in her gown, dramatically extends her hand, declaring she'll pick her own dance partner. Davy, totally shocked, asks Daphne if she seriously doesn't know Elena, even though Daphne's the only lady he brought to the competition, and Daphne's like, yep, that's right. Winky, ever the perceptive fairy, probes Winley, asking if the pressure of the moment is getting to her. But Winley's resolve is ironclad. She's not backing down, declaring her imminent entry into the competition. She's all business, asserting that a princess's mindset leads only to empty dreams, and Davy, watching from afar, hangs on every word. With Daphne and sister Hypoxia by his side, Davy's mind races, contemplating the very essence of dreams. If you don't chase them, they're just fantasies. For him, a true dream is a journey to be relished, a leisurely pursuit, never a frantic race. Back with Winley, Winky offers heartfelt encouragement, reminding her that dreams are lifelong adventures, just like her legendary grandfather's. The tiny fairy beams, her words a powerful surge of pure, unadulterated support. Just then, Besfis makes a dramatic entrance, cutting off the conversation to formally address her as Princess Winley. With the orange-haired informant lurking close, Besfis then turns his attention to Davy, demanding to know the identity of the slimy guy he'd been watching. The tension is palpable as Davy's mind races, questioning if this new player even knows Winley. Winley's face tells a story of pure shock and unease, caught completely off guard by the sudden turn of events. A hand shoots out, seizing hers. A bold young man drops to one knee, his voice ringing out with an audacious proposal. "Princess, will you grant me the honor of your hand in marriage?" But Winley's brother isn't having it. He swiftly intervenes, reclaiming her hand and cutting off the prince with a cool, collected retort. "Hold on, Prince Valaian. We're in the middle of something here." Davy lets out a barely audible click of his tongue, his gaze sharp, taking in every detail of the escalating situation. Valaian, instantly recognizing his blunder, quickly bows his head, apologizing profusely for his rude interruption. He then makes a grand introduction, announcing, "I am Valaian du Boltiz, the 7th Prince of Boltiz Kingdom." Then, with perfect timing, Davy steps into the spotlight, delivering his own powerful introduction. "I am Davy Alrone." The atmosphere explodes with tension, as Valaian, radiating a fierce yellow energy, squares off against Prince Davy, his words dripping with a challenge. He fires off a question, demanding to know why Davy's even here, and Davy just coolly states he's just watching the competition. Valetian's face tightens, as he tries to wrap his head around it, wondering if Davy's really not here as a prince. With a smirk that screams, "I don't care," Davy just tells him to enjoy his stay, leaving Valaian utterly stunned. Shifting his focus from Davy, Valaian then dramatically calls out to Princess Winley, his voice booming. He grandly announces he'll win the whole competition just for her, telling her to keep her eyes glued to him. Winley stares up at him, her face giving nothing away, while Valaian keeps going, implying she's being totally rude to everyone else. He then drops a chilling hint, suggesting things would get seriously unfun if he actually made good on his words. Winley coolly turns her back, her voice sharp, reminding him her twin brother's in this too, and she's absolutely calling her own shots. She stares him down, her voice dripping with defiance, daring him to just let it all end right here. But a dark look crosses Valetian's face, his thoughts already spiraling. He's not backing down, not now, his voice exploding in a challenge, demanding to know if Princess Winley dares to look down on him. Suddenly, Valaian snaps, grabbing her arm with a brutal grip, his rage boiling over. His eye burns with a terrifying, crimson glow, his determination absolute. He lunges, his patience completely gone, ready to make his move. But before he can even touch her, a lightning-fast foot slams down, pinning his hand to the ground, a mocking voice apologizing for a slipped hand. Davy is suddenly there, a steel grip on Valetian's wrist, Winley now safe behind her brother. He glares daggers at Valaian, a chilling warning not to touch his precious sister, leaving Valaian to only grunt in pure fury. Davy is not backing down, still pinning Valaian and dropping a cold warning to stay away from his sister. But Valaian is absolutely fuming, spitting curses right back, only for Davy to double down on his threat. Valetian's hand is practically vibrating with suppressed fury. His gaze is pure venom, a chilling intensity in his eyes. Valaian snatches it up, then, with a roar, he challenges Davy to a full-blown duel. This is getting real. But wait, Daphne and Winley are stepping in. Daphne is shutting Valaian down, while Winley, wings flapping, is telling him to back off. But Valaian is unyielding, his knightly honor demanding satisfaction. Daphne tries to talk him down, warning him about the fallout, but Prince Valaian du Boltiz is locked in. And who's watching all this go down? The orange-haired informant, taking it all in. Valaian, with an unyielding gaze, doubles down on his challenge, declaring he's been watching everything unfold, and now it's time to get serious, asking Davy directly if he actually thinks he's got the right to even think about getting his honor back. Davy just stands there, a silent storm brewing behind his eyes as he takes it all in. The Phaelon Empire, forged by an ancient hero, is one of the 3 legendary continents. Legend says that some within its history broke the mold, chasing pure, unadulterated strength, their power crystallizing into legendary artifacts like this glowing blade. These absolute powerhouses, who mastered their own strength, could crush monsters and dragons with just one devastating swing. Suddenly, a lightning bolt rips through the sky, revealing an ethereal structure, and a voice whispers, "Habs." A young woman with fiery orange hair subtly turns, her eyes holding a faraway look. Her face is calm, but intensely focused. This is Princess Ileana of the Phelan Empire, a key player in the Emperor's Forbidden Mysteries. She extends a hand, a soft, triumphant glow bursting from her palm, exclaiming, It worked. He's watching her, and his mind is racing, fixated on the Emperor's wild move to grant such a massive reward to just a woman. He's flashing back to Habs, super handsome, but totally weak, seeing his green-haired brother in a tense standoff, practically yelling for the guy's attention. But Habs is a woman now, with this insane status, and the princess's face just snaps, a sharp clack of surprise. She totally gets his unspoken question, muttering a hesitant, that. And well. As he's deep in thought about what this all means. She just says, excuse me. So politely, then spins away, a little nervous laugh trailing behind her. But her eyes are telling a whole different story, a silent. Hanging heavy in the air. Davy, with that big, easy smile, just brushes it off with a, just forget it, and a casual laugh. Over on the side, the green-haired brother is just staring at Princess Ileana, a massive, how did that happen? Screaming in his head. Then his brother's voice just shatters the silence, yelling, brother, totally blindsiding Davy, who's like, what's going on? And then the bombshell drops, Princess Ileana de Phelan is actually Prince Valaian J. Meet Elena de Phelan, the Empress's sword goddess, burdened by her noble birth. But wait, Prince Valaian, the arrogant one, is here, questioning everyone's honor. This guy's got charisma for days, and he's super famous, making all the other nobles, even the arrogant Valaian, look tame. Then, an older noble laid down the law to the green-haired prince and his friend, if you're a knight with honor, prove it. He straight up demanded an apology to all his guests, making Davy groan in agony, and Winky could only manage a tiny, that. But the green-haired prince, no matter what his sister did, couldn't just leave her behind, so he took a resolute step. Davy's face was tense, as he grumbled, just look at this. The older noble was totally shocked, as the green-haired prince bowed low and said, I accept. Davy yelled, brother. The prince looked up, confused, what are you talking about? But Davy cut him off, you'll never forgive me for this. He recalls the legends of heroes who battled plagues and saved nations, yet also the dark tales of those who chased nothing but raw, unbridled power. Meanwhile, the haughty older noble, brandishing a pristine white glove, corners the green-haired prince, demanding an apology. Who, with a heavy heart and a grimace, is forced to accept the humiliating terms. Davy, witnessing the entire spectacle, turns and walks away, a master of his own destiny. While the green-haired prince, still reeling from the public humiliation, thinks of his sister, a silent apology for his perceived disgrace echoing in his mind. His sister, Princess Winley, watches him with a worried gaze, her heart aching for his plight. The older noble, relentless, continues to berate the prince, sneering that his swordplay is nothing but amateurish. And that he should simply surrender if he knew his place, leaving the prince utterly stunned. Suddenly, Prince Valaian steps into the fray, calmly reassuring the green-haired prince that everything is fine. A noble's boot still crushed the green-haired prince's head, a brutal power play for all to witness. Valaian, now front and center, laid down the law, declaring this humiliation would never repeat, but hinted at dire repercussions if he had to back down. A confident smirk played on his face, clutching a ceremonial cross, his aura dominating the entire room. He then stared down at the humiliated prince, giving him the green light to make his move. Valaian, blade flashing, throws down the gauntlet, daring his foe to face the inevitable. But then, a brilliant idea ignites in his mind. As Valaian, oblivious, vows to unleash his full power. But before Valaian can even blink, a blinding explosion of speed erupts. As Davy Orwain vanishes and reappears, his blade already slamming into Valaian, who's left stunned and reeling. The sheer impact sends him spiraling through the air. Leaving him to gasp, how could I be so foolish? Another devastating blow lands, and he gasps, I thought I was fast enough, but... Davy's relentless barrage continues, his blade a blur of strikes, utterly dominating the prince. A searing pain rips through his hands, leaving him absolutely reeling from the unexpected blow. Before he can even process the first hit, another lightning-fast sword strike lands. The sheer force sends him flying, crashing hard onto the opulent floor. He can barely process the sheer, impossible speed of his foe, utterly bewildered by what just happened. Humiliation burns through him, his pride absolutely shattered by the lightning-fast loss. His throbbing, injured hand is a brutal reminder, a shocking testament to his sudden weakness. He springs back up, sword gripped tight, a furious vow of vengeance on his lips. Even after that insane display of skill, Valetian's pride won't let him quit, screaming that Davy Orwain will never defeat him. Blades scream as they collide, a thunderous impact shaking the very ground. Davy's knuckles turn white, his grip failing under an impossible force, a furious shit tearing from his throat. His gaze locks onto the overwhelming power, a grim determination hardening his features. The dark-clad swordsman, a true tyrant of absolute strength, stands like an unmovable mountain, his dominance undeniable. Davy's mind screams in disbelief, the sheer power he faces utterly incomprehensible. A lightning-fast strike connects, blood exploding into the air as he's violently thrown back. Watching from afar, the orange-haired informant's face twists in a mix of shock and furious indignation. His hand trembles on the hilt, a desperate, "but why?" echoing in his mind as defeat looms. The orange-haired informant's eyes are glued to the action, a look of pure shock plastered across her face as the fight rages. While a devastating sword strike slices through the very air itself. Davy can't believe it, is he actually getting pushed back this hard? The informant lets out a shocked gasp, witnessing the dark-clad swordsman standing triumphantly over a fallen Davy. Who's now down and out? You got hit again, she yells, pure frustration in her voice. You bastard. Her hand tightens into a furious fist, her face a mask of intense worry. She grumbles, how many hits has he taken? Even playing it safe, he'd get hit 3 times. Is this seriously all we've got? With gritted teeth, she faces the harsh truth, it's not much, is he, then shouts, wait up. Her patience snaps. She cuts him off, demanding action, not words, as he can only whisper the legendary title, the Sword God. But she's not done. She pushes for his real thoughts, and his answer is stark, train in alone. He flashes back to his roots, grinding out swordsmanship with nothing but a wooden sword. It was always about the raw execution, the moves just happening. This was the legendary sword art, the very technique the sword god himself mastered. Not just learned, but forged and created from his very soul. But Davy? He's hitting a wall. He gets the theory, but this sword art just feels off. She just stares, a silent observer to his internal struggle. Then, a crushing wave of self-doubt hits. He screams internally, I suck, and throws the blame right back, if you dragged me into this society, don't you dare blame me now. Sister Hypoxia drops a truth bomb, stating that it's not about having the art, but about the one you can actually use. And Davy's mind is blown, left wondering why this simple truth hits so hard. Is it all about that overwhelming power? He ponders, then instantly shuts it down. Nah, definitely not. The sword god's technique isn't just about brute force or clever moves. Which is exactly why it's branded as an evil sword art. This isn't some hero's art for saving the world, it's a power forged purely for the sword god's own glory. Crafted to bait foes into recklessness, turn them into absolute chumps, and then weaponize their own moves against them. It's a whole different ballgame, because the sword goddess's journey isn't just about being the strongest swordsman, it's about shattering the entire concept. A shocking clash rips through the air as 2 swords, one blazing orange and the other electric blue, grind against each other with a fierce, metallic shriek. Before Davy Orawain stands absolutely dominant over a fallen enemy, his sword unwavering, as a crushing thud shakes the very ground. He scans the stunned crowd, a confident smirk spreading across his face, knowing that every single eye on him just amplifies his insane sword art's power. The more they watch, the stronger he gets. And right now, the crowd is absolutely buzzing, a low rumble of shock and awe building up, their whispers turning into a roar. From the sidelines, Winky lets out a frustrated sigh, muttering about whether he's a genius or just a fearless psychopath, while Davy Orawain casually checks in, asking if she's okay. Sword slung over his shoulder, he just flashes a wicked grin, uttering a chilling, so fun. The orange-haired informant stares, shocked that he's completely unaffected by the sword god's art, as the green-haired brother drops a bombshell, he's going up against the Empress. An intense blue light explodes from Sister Hypoxia's sword, her eye blazing with pure rage as she lets out a terrifying snarl, a deadly vow to end him. Davy Orawain stands his ground, ready for anything, as the furious Empress, her blade still glowing, prepares for an epic showdown, the entire hall crackling with electric tension. A devastating sword aura explodes, making Davy yell in shock, while his green-haired brother screams about Barshan's madness. He instantly recognizes it as the Empress's terrifying sword aura, a power that once crushed him, leaving him to question if he's about to face that same overwhelming force again. He vows internally that he can't hold back any longer. And what's more, her icy stare is absolutely getting under his skin. Standing firm in the opulent hall, under the watchful eyes of the orange-haired informant, Winky, Prince Valayan, and Princess Ileana, he braces himself. As their feet lock into position, a subtle, shimmering blue energy sparks around his own. Got you. Sister Hypoxia roars, her gaze locked on him, as his eyes blaze with an intense crimson glow. Then, a blinding flash of speed rips through the space. Immediately followed by the terrifying, sweeping arc of a blue sword aura. He barely sees it coming, a lightning-fast blur that sends him flying. Where did she even come from? He's launched through the air. His mind still processing the attack, as the impact sends a shockwave through him. Aya-ak. Her fury is absolutely palpable, a sharp, you bastard, echoing. as she lands a devastating kick. He slams backward, absolutely obliterating a decorative vase into countless pieces. The sheer force leaving him completely stunned. An observer watches, a silent gasp escaping her lips, as the enraged woman glares down at her defeated opponent. He's left sprawled on the ground, groaning, "Oh, my back." He hits the ground hard, a painful groan escaping him as he tries to process the brutal fall. The entire hall erupts in shock, gasping at the sight of Bartian, the prince, sprawled on the floor. Standing victorious, the Empress Sword Goddess looms over him, a chilling smile playing on her lips as she savors her undeniable win. A soft, almost ethereal sound echoes through the grand, empty hall, as a voice laments that Prince Valetian's performance was truly disappointing, while acknowledging that Prince Orwain, however, had done exceptionally well. Valetian, still reeling from the outcome, questions Orwain's sudden prowess, reminding him that he was in a coma just a few months prior, to which Orwain casually replies that it was the reason he couldn't properly wield a sword for some time. He dismisses the past with a simple, "Things went by so fast," prompting Valetian to ask if he somehow gave up his life to a demon. A defeated sigh escapes Valetian as he sits dejectedly on the floor, the weight of his loss heavy upon him. Meanwhile, Orwain's hand, still gripping his sword, remains steady and poised. From a distance, Princess Ileana watches the scene unfold, a subtle smile playing on her lips as she declares, "This was a good show." Her eyes, however, betray a deeper interest, glowing with an intense, golden light. Just as she's about to leave, a voice shouts, "Mom Ileana," and another desperately cries, "Princess, hold on." Flashback or not, Ileana is stunning in a wedding dress at an altar, then she's just another face in the crowd, watching Davy and Valetian. Elsewhere, Valetian's brother is totally calling him out, telling him he's way too reckless. Davy's thinking back, like, "Yeah, the host tried to keep it quiet, but that was a huge mess." His brother's like, "Dude, why so chill?" But Davy just shrugs it off, "It's fine, it all worked out." The green-haired brother is worried, their attitude is getting worse, but their skills aren't. He then talks with Valetian about how they've been performing at recent events. Meanwhile, Winky is fuming about some terrible guy who just won't stop chasing her. Davy's totally clueless, but Winky's not holding back, telling him, "You got lucky, but don't count on it next time." Winky, still reeling from her pursuer, tries to warn Davy about his reckless streak, but he just brushes her off with a cool, "I'd rather that you." Elsewhere, the drama unfolds as Valetian's brother confronts him, demanding to know why he's always stirring up such insane trouble, but Valetian snaps back, "Don't treat me like a kid." But his brother isn't backing down, firmly stating he'll take his own advice as the elder. Valetian just smirks, totally unfazed by the lecture. The brother presses on, admitting Valetian's power, but confessing, "Honestly, I'm still kinda worried about him." Valetian's smug look falters, a low groan escaping him as the reality of his brother's worry finally hits. The narrator reveals that he had no idea he'd be utterly crushed, as both brothers gape in shock at an unseen event, with Davy coolly observing from afar. The source of their horror is clear, a powerful magical barrier, utterly annihilated, its fragments scattering everywhere. The green-haired brother screams in terror, begging, "My lord, please stop." Valetian watches in horrified disbelief, the implication clear, Davy is behind this chaos. While Davy remains unfazed, the fallout hits hard for Valetian du Boltiz, who's now being held back, a furious "ugh" escaping his lips. His eyes blaze with fury as he shouts, vowing that no one will ever shame him, the next prince of the Beloit Empire. Radiant and undeniably talented, Valetian basks in the adoration of the masses, boasting that nothing in this world is beyond his grasp. His mind then drifts to Princess Ileana, a woman of undeniable importance. But the tables have turned. Valetian and his green-haired brother are now utterly devastated, the prince bitterly regretting his past arrogance, muttering about how he'd picked her to be his maid, only for her to become a princess and now, a subordinate. He continues to vent, recalling the smooth marriage negotiations with the Bonnie Queen, but now, it's all gone sideways. His rage explodes as he gazes at the broken magical barrier, screaming, "Why do I have to go through something like this?" In a final, desperate roar, he yells for it to get lost and go away. Boom! A chair explodes across the room, as Davy stands ready, having just unleashed pure fury. The fancy furniture is now just splinters on the floor. Meanwhile, Valetian's hand tightens, a sinister grin twisting his face as he vows, "I'll definitely kill him." Ha! He pivots to an unseen figure, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "Do you wish to kill?" His regal uniform barely rustles with the subtle shift. His stare locks on, repeating the question with chilling intensity, "Do you wish to kill him?" His eyes flare with an eerie glow as his voice snaps, demanding, "I asked who the hell are you?" And then, his hand explodes with vibrant magical energy, making a chilling promise, "I can help you, my cute." A new player emerges, her crimson hair a fiery cascade, as a dark purple aura explodes around her, eyes burning with raw power. With a chilling declaration, she vows to rip and crush, then demands to know the name of her new partner in crime. And then, with a smirk, she drops her name, Sierra. Standing tall in her wicked dress, Sierra throws down the gauntlet, daring them to forget her name. Valetian's gaze sharpens, absorbing every word she utters. A sly grin spreads across his face, as he gives her the good she craves, sealing the deal. With a flash of fangs and a chilling grin, Sierra takes the reins, promising to handle everything. In the shadowy depths of the grand hall, the unspoken command rings out, do whatever you want. But the power comes at a cost. Sierra collapses onto the lavish floor, a fading purple glow her only companion, hinting at the sheer energy she just unleashed or absorbed. An epic arena dominates the horizon, its colossal structure promising untold drama and power. But inside, Valerian confronts him, his voice laced with desperation, declaring he absolutely can't permit it, because the Empress Sword Goddess is about to make her move. But with a subtle tuck and a burst of light from his hand, Davy makes his own statement. A confident smirk playing on his lips. Moments later, in another opulent room, he casually declares he's still got a long road ahead, leaving the orange-haired informant completely stumped. With a quick suek, he brushes off his own profound statement as just talking to himself. Before declaring with absolute certainty that everything else can wait, it's go time. Elsewhere, the green-haired brother is absolutely stunned, his jaw practically on the floor, a silent wah of disbelief escaping him. And then, the grand reveal. The arena is packed, roaring with anticipation, as Davy takes center stage, ready for anything. Valerian, completely alone, sits on a stone bench, his long, reddish-brown hair hiding his expression as the arena's silence screams around him. The arena absolutely erupts, a massive crowd screaming their heads off. Davy Orawane just stares up at the wild scene, the crowd's energy hitting him like a wave. He pushes through the insane crowd, knowing Baris's big match is coming up this afternoon. Seriously, the energy here is absolutely electric. Then, out of nowhere, a voice screams out, calling his name. He finally finds Winky Alrone chilling in a private room, and she's like, am I late? And Winky just deadpans, nope. He closes his eyes, thinking, ugh, I can't tell her I faked being sick to ditch those lame morning matches. He'd rather pretend to be sick forever than spill the beans. He's got the power to take down demons and even royalty, but he's still stuck, unable to hit that ultimate mastery. And get this, he's still in a tight spot, faking sick in the temple bathroom. Sweat drips as he realizes this act can't last. He'll either have to unleash his holy power and blow his cover, or get caught. Back in the stands, his orange-haired informant is hyped, pointing out something huge to the green-haired prince, a badge. Davy and Winky are chilling in their royal box, watching the arena explode, the crowd is absolutely losing it for the fighters, and the match is about to kick off. He's checking out the scroll, ready to see who he's up against. He's walking with purpose, heading straight for the arena. Then, a shocker. His eyes pop wide open in total disbelief. This fight is just brutal. He's front and center in the massive arena, the crowd's energy already building to a fever pitch. The rules are set, dull blades, no lethal blows allowed. His green-haired ally shouts a warning from the stands, telling him to watch out for mana-infused attacks, or he'll get penalized. Davy takes it all in, staying sharp. The orange-haired informant points out the insane crowd noise, and the green-haired prince totally backs her up. He quickly reassures her, saying Baby's is with him, so it's all good. Plus, he's got insurance. The two swordsmen square off, and the arena's tension is absolutely electric. The arena absolutely erupts, a deafening wave of sound washing over everything. The fighters square off, and then, bam. A sudden, sharp impact rips through the air, officially kicking off the match. Valerian hits the ground, eyes locked on Davy, ready to go. Up in the stands, the green-haired brother leans over to the orange-haired informant, pointing out how Valetian's swordplay from yesterday was totally wild and unexpected. He elaborates, saying Valetian's a pure sword fighter, no mana tricks, just raw blade skill to absolutely dominate his foes. But back in the arena, a golden, shimmering aura suddenly explodes around Davy. And he unleashes a mana-infused strike that Valerian is absolutely not ready for. He keeps the pressure on, unleashing another devastating mana-infused strike. Valerian, however, is ready, meeting the blow with his sword, the clash echoing with raw power. The sheer force of the attack pushes Valerian to his limits. But he holds his ground, blocking the strike with incredible resolve. Yet, the raw power still sends him hurtling backward, a testament to the strike's immense force. Up in the stands, the green-haired prince and the orange-haired informant are absolutely stunned, their faces a mix of awe and disbelief. Davy, watching Valerian, can't help but wonder if he's gotten stronger overnight, though he quickly dismisses the idea that even a genius could gain such physical prowess so fast. But then he realizes, Valetian's raw, untamed talent is a whole different beast, he's a total monster. Even the mighty Prince Valayan was about to hit his breaking point, but then Davy's eyes snap open, utterly shocked. Princess Ileana is also hit by a weird vibe, totally confused about what's going down. The green-haired prince is just blown away, watching in pure amazement. Valayan, sprawled on the ground, can't believe the insane speed of those backflips. He's thinking, am I still not strong enough, and vows to train even harder. Davy's face is a total poker face, locked in on the action. The green-haired prince tells Winky, dude, he's seriously leveled up. Winky, beaming with resolve, shouts her dream, I'm gonna be a knight when I grow up. Davy figures Valayan totally invited him just to flex his new power, and he'll always. Winley will protect Appa, a fierce vow rings out, as 6 years have flown by. The green-haired brother, eyes sharp, can practically feel the sheer, unyielding effort poured into this moment. He can't wrap his head around it, that kind of power, forged in such a short time. What is this guy? It's like he's a whole new person, a complete transformation, and a truly bizarre, almost menacing energy pulses from the heart of the magic. Winley's jaw drops, utterly bewildered by the spectacle. A blade flashes in the arena, sparking a sudden, urgent question, what's happening now? The green-haired brother gazes down at Valayan, a silent challenge in his mind, you're not the prince I once knew. Valayan, unyielding, acknowledges his foe's relentless drive and formidable skill, knowing he must remain absolutely vigilant against such lightning-fast attacks. With a fierce resolve, Valayan declares, this ends now. Clenching his blade with a menacing smirk. He taunts his foe, let's see you resist this, as a blinding arc of energy erupts from his sword, forcing Davy into a desperate defense. Davy's eyes snap wide open at the sheer force. Realizing this is match 20. He barely manages to parry, his blade screaming against Volition's relentless assault. Valayan, a blur of motion. A terrifying grin splitting his face, eyes burning crimson as he carves through the air with lethal precision. Davy's jaw drops in shock. As Valayan unleashes a devastating, multi-arc combo, pushing his opponent to the absolute brink. Volition's relentless blade keeps pushing, and a chilling thought cuts through the chaos, trying to die. But then, a shocking realization hits Davy, a vision of, my next companion. Burning into his mind. The impact of the thought is immense, red energy erupting around him as his eyes snap wide open in pure shock. Then, a terrifying mana flow, explodes into existence, a vortex of red and purple energy threatening to consume everything. Davy screams, clutching his chest, as the raw, crimson mana violently erupts from his body. His eyes glow with the overwhelming power, a single, desperate word tearing from his throat, I'm. The mana vortex screams around him, and the terrifying truth hits, he's going to die. Under the pale moonlight, a lone figure is grinding, pushing his limits, the night air charged with his intense focus. His blade carves through the air, leaving a sick, glowing blue streak behind. Then, a voice cuts through the night, calling out that he's practicing like a beast. His younger brother steps up, straight-faced, confessing he couldn't sleep because of the racket, then drops a quick apology. Davy shoots back, that he's in the same boat, couldn't catch any Z's either. He gives props to his brother's grind, but then drops the bomb that he's still not satisfied with his own level. His brother fires back a challenge, asking what if he never gets there, then vows to surpass him with his own 2 hands. Davy just flashes a confident smile, telling him to chill, he's gonna crush it. He's deep in the books, a quiet hum escaping him as he processes complex information. Elsewhere, his brother is grinding, practicing his sword forms with flawless posture and a pure, powerful mana flow. Even as he feels a slight weakness, knowing this technique is just a workaround for his natural lack of speed and raw power. But then, a message cuts through his concentration. He brushes off the message, thinking it's just his rival talking trash, but then a curious slips out. As if something totally unexpected just hit him. A familiar voice tells him to chill out and grab the hand, even dropping Davy's name to back it up. He goes along with it, taking the hand. A jolt of pain hits him as he's told it's gonna hurt a bit. Then, with a blinding flash and an intense crackle, his eyes ignite, a massive power surge ripping through his body. Suddenly, his brother is startled, calling out to him in confusion. Davy grabs his brother's head, a powerful green aura flaring from his hands. His brother struggles, gasping for breath, but Davy just coolly declares he's not resting enough. This isn't just any mana. This is a unique, powerful energy, forcing an intense internal transformation. Davy, unwavering, continues to explain his mysterious actions. Suddenly, Davy's hand ignites with power, and he chants an ancient, unknown spell. The green energy around his brother explodes. His brother is completely overwhelmed, feeling like he's been ripped into another dimension, utterly confused by the bizarre language. Davy's hand blazes with an incredible golden light. And then, his brother's eye ignites, glowing with an intense, powerful green. As the magical surge finally settles, his brother looks down, now appearing strangely calm and collected. Reeling from the raw power coursing through him, the green-haired brother was still on the floor, but Davy was already promising that this insurance wasn't an instant power-up, just a crucial boost. A low grunt escaped him, and he pushed himself into a sitting position, only for Davy to immediately bark at him to get on his feet. Offering a hand, Davy warned him about the chill and doubled down on his insurance offer. Being hauled to his feet, the prince grumbled about Davy's lack of finesse, quipping that Winley would have been far more delicate. But Davy wasn't having any of it, snapping at him to get to his room, threatening to revoke any future gifts if he stumbled again. Slightly unsteady, he glanced back at Davy, then shuffled off. Under the pale moonlight, the green-haired brother stood, the insurance now fully integrated, and a thrilling anticipation for the next day filled him. A triumphant grin broke out, his eyes blazing with an intense, emerald green, signaling the potent new energy now surging through his very being. Suddenly, a massive burst of emerald power explodes, ripping through the air with an intense, tearing sound. Davy stands over Valaian, who's now engulfed in a shimmering blue aura, clearly orchestrating this insane magical display. Valaian gets absolutely rocked by the impact, his face contorting in pure shock, as a massive boom echoes around him. Watching the whole thing unfold, the green-haired brother can't help but ask, what the heck just happened? He's totally confused, seeing Valetian's sword turn red and wondering if Prince Boris is somehow involved. Then his eyes snap to something else, weird blue crystals forming around Prince Boris, and he's desperately trying to figure out what they are. And this whole insane spectacle is going down inside a colossal arena, with its towering stands reaching for the heavens. Meanwhile, Winky is absolutely losing her mind, totally blown away by the spectacle, wondering if only top-tier mages can pull off moves like that, then screaming that Appa, Davy, just crushed it. But the green-haired brother is in serious trouble, his face covered in blood, and his eyes are blazing a terrifying red as he desperately screams, time out. The match between Prince Valaian and Prince Boris. It's on hold. The tension is absolutely palpable. Valaian, absolutely fuming, is demanding answers. He's screaming about rule violations and interference, calling it an act that could spark a full-blown war. He's not just talking penalties, he's threatening an all-out declaration of war against the Valtese nation. Boris, meanwhile, is desperately trying to calm things down, pleading that it's all just a misunderstanding. But Valaian isn't backing down, shutting down any chance for a peaceful resolution. Boris' face twists in pure desperation, silently begging for someone, anyone, to step in. Then, a sudden, explosive impact rips through the silence. Valetian's gauntlet hand is now clutching a glowing blue crystal, pulsating with raw, destructive energy. He unleashes that power, slamming Boris to the ground, completely overwhelmed and out of the fight. Princess Ileana, witnessing the brutality from afar, is absolutely horrified, convinced Valaian just committed murder. Valetian's face twists in a raw, visceral grimace, sweat exploding from his brow as the sheer power of his attack rips through him. But the damage is done. Boris' body is sent hurtling down, slamming into the dark, spiky ground with brutal force. Suddenly, a blinding light explodes in the arena, leaving everyone stunned and asking. What is that? They scream, as pure terror grips the crowd, forcing them to cry out. Everyone run, they shriek, as the monstrous truth is revealed, a grotesque, wide grin, razor-sharp teeth, and malevolent red eyes, leaving the crowd to scream, the prince is crazy. Prince Valaian, now a full-blown monster wreathed in dark, swirling energy, unleashes his fury on the arena, his transformation complete as terrified screams rip through the air. Panicked citizens huddle, begging for someone to control him, but it's useless, his power is just too overwhelming. More screams erupt as people scatter, desperately calling for backup, their pleas drowned out by the sheer pandemonium. From a distance, the green-haired prince watches the nightmare unfold, his face a mask of utter shock and disbelief, he can't even process what he's seeing. His eyes widen in pure horror, a single word escaping his lips as he recognizes the monster, Bro. He flashes back to the heart-pounding moment of the competition, a memory that still burns bright. Shadowy figures loom, but a voice cuts through the tension, Boris, you crushed it. A smirk crosses his face, a silent challenge as he asks, did you even see that? Davy's shocked face appears, echoing his excited declaration, I pulled off a spell, bro. Bro. He recalls the epic divine barrier, a master-level spell forged from raw mana, a shield against any threat. He'd put it up just in case, but Boris knew the real deal was his own insane growth, even if it felt like overkill. Clutching his little brother, he thinks, Davy's only 14. His feat was awesome, but he'd still almost bought the farm. He lets out a frustrated sigh, muttering, he's just too darn polite. Alone, he snaps at himself, quit sounding like an old geezer and get some sleep. A faint heartbeat pounds, a ghost from the past, and a single, haunting word, brother, echoes through the void. Two young figures, one dark-haired, one lighter, stride down a vast corridor, their presence a fleeting whisper in time. The vision snaps to a colossal, opulent hall, a massive statue dominating the space, with minuscule figures bustling below, swallowed by the sheer scale. Then, a chilling close-up on Davy, his eyes sealed shut, but a terrifying crimson light pulses from within. He strides alone towards a colossal, ornate gate, an undeniable resolve in his every step, as the name Valéian rings in his mind. Then, a blinding, fiery orb of pure magic erupts into existence, pulsating with raw, untamed power. Two robed figures, one with emerald hair and another gripping a staff, unleash their fury, igniting a cataclysmic explosion of fire. Prince Boris, his emerald hair a stark contrast to his intense gaze, stands shoulder to shoulder with Valéian, both scrutinizing the chaos, Boris demanding to know if their efforts worked. A colossal, golden-armored figure, chest blazing with ominous light, stands as an insurmountable obstacle. Around it, two hooded figures recoil in alarm, one screaming that their foe is too strong and demanding an immediate audience evacuation. The magical barrier, shaped like an hourglass, shimmers precariously, its surface spiderwebbed with glowing cracks as it struggles to hold. Prince Boris, caught in the overwhelming force, is violently thrown downwards, tumbling along the ornate structure with a green aura flaring around him. He looks down, his expression a mix of pain and grim determination, his body still reeling from the impact. Even amidst his struggle, Boris manages to call out a desperate warning, imploring Prince Davy not to approach the perilous scene. Below, an official urgently commands the gathered crowd to move away, their voices echoing across the vast platform. Winky watches the chaos unfold, her voice filled with concern as she softly calls out, wondering about her brother's fate. Meanwhile, Davy appears on a high ledge, observing the unfolding disaster with a sharp gaze, his sudden presence raising questions about his arrival. The arena erupted in chaos as an unknown assailant relentlessly hammered Valéian, who fought desperately to hold his ground. Valéian took a devastating hit, blood splattering as he grimaced in pain. Davy observed the escalating crisis, his mind racing as he questioned if these infections were a whole new level of threat compared to what Valéian had encountered. With a chilling crimson glow in his eyes, he knew exactly what he had to do next. But the real threat was just beginning. A small, red-clad figure at the epicenter of the chaos unleashed a torrent of raw, destructive red energy, its power surging. The energy pulsed with terrifying force, its crimson aura exploding outwards with an unholy shriek. With the threat reaching critical mass, a subtle, yet potent, purple energy began to shimmer around Davy, his power awakening. Guards scrambled, screaming orders to form a desperate blockade and keep the monstrous figure away from the prince, but it was clear their defenses were crumbling. Suddenly, with a terrifying flash of crimson eyes and an explosive burst of speed, Davy vanished, leaving only a shadowy afterimage in his wake. He grits his teeth, a raw, primal scream tearing from his throat as an invisible pressure crushes him. His face twists in agony, a maelstrom of chaotic red energy erupting around him, pushing him to his limits. High above, Valéian stares down, his voice tight with worry, a desperate question about Winley hanging in the air. A burning resolve ignites his gaze, his eyes blazing crimson as he screams defiance. He realizes with chilling clarity, Winley is in danger if he doesn't act now. Then, a blinding flash of motion, he explodes into action, shouting, "Move!" He slams into Valéian, shoving him aside with raw power, sending the prince flying. The green-haired prince stares, jaw agape in utter shock, a bewildered, what, escaping his lips. Princess Ileana, utterly stunned, can only gasp a name, Princess Elena. Shoved clear of the blast, Valéian slides across the ground, barely escaping the initial impact. But the armored figure isn't letting up. Their glowing blue sword slams down with devastating power, and Davy barely intercepts it, the clash erupting with a deafening crash. He's pushing back, but the pressure is insane. Davy's body grinds against the sheer power of the attack, barely holding his ground. No time to breathe. The armored figure launches into the sky, setting up for another brutal attack. Weapon ready, they plummet down like a meteor. Then, a colossal sword mountain slash explodes from their weapon, swallowing everything in a blinding, earth-shattering blast. The ground itself shatters from the sheer power, dust and debris exploding as the world screams. The destructive power just keeps going, ripping through the ground and leaving chaos behind. The dust settles, and from the sidelines, Valéian, the green-haired prince, and Princess Ileana stare in shock, until Valéian finally shouts, "Hey! Are you alright?" A beat passes, then a strained voice replies, I'm fine." A sudden, explosive impact sends dust and debris flying everywhere. With a heavy sword slamming into the earth. Princess Ileana drops to her knees, her expression a mask of pure distress. The sheer force of it rattles her to the core, leaving her utterly stunned. Her eyes snap wide open in sheer terror, a silent scream trapped within her. But across the chaos, Prince Valéian is also knocked to his knees, his eyes burning as he stares into the distance. A primal growl rips from his throat, his face contorted in an explosion of fury, veins popping. Then, with an earth-shattering roar, a blazing red and orange aura explodes from him, crackling with untamed power as he stands tall. He unleashes a guttural scream, a devastating wave of power surging forth. Out of nowhere, Princess Ileana strikes with a blinding slash, sending Valerian reeling from the sheer force. She doesn't let up, unleashing a relentless barrage that leaves him scrambling. Her relentless assault sends him flying, catapulting him high into the air. No hesitation, Ileana winds up for another brutal blow. She launches herself, delivering a crushing mid-air kick. The hit connects with an explosive force, sending shockwaves tearing through the area. I'm not going to lose to a woman. Valerian roars, slamming his foot down with an earth-shattering boom, unleashing a massive shockwave. Meanwhile, a mysterious cloaked figure observes the chaos from afar, gasping softly, wondering if what they're witnessing is even possible. Princess Ileana is down, the ground shattering around her from Valishan's devastating shockwave. Valerian stares down, his power undeniable. A massive Yidich rips through the air. But Ileana isn't out. She rises from the rubble, a defiant smirk on her face. So that's how it is. Winky screams to Davy, Davy, run. Leave this to the princess. Ileana unleashes a verbal assault, you're pounding away at a princess and trying mine, huh? Stealing other people's game. Then, with a blinding swoosh, her blade is out. Her eyes ignite with raw power, a furious grit escaping her lips as she prepares to strike. Davy and Winky are absolutely stunned by her sudden surge of energy. A massive shockwave just ripped through the arena, shattering the ceiling and leaving everyone stunned. But in the middle of it all, Valerian, wrapped in glowing blue chains, is already airborne, launching a full-force assault on Ileana, who's chained up but ready to fight back. Someone can barely believe their eyes, wondering if they just saw what they thought they saw. Valerian isn't holding back, his hand is literally sparking with blue lightning, and those chains are tearing through the air. But Ileana's not just standing there, her hand is blazing with a fiery orange glow, and her nails are turning into razor-sharp claws, ready to counter. Watching from the sidelines, Davy and Winky are glued to the brutal fight, with Winky practically screaming his name in worry. But before Ileana can even move, a dark, piercing energy just explodes, hitting its mark with devastating power. Valishan's face twists into a sick, triumphant grin, his eyes practically burning with pure, evil satisfaction. And then, a blinding flash. Blood just explodes, confirming a brutal hit in that insane fight. The air still crackles with raw, dark energy, tearing at the very fabric of reality. Then, a sharp metallic clang rips through the air, a desperate, last-ditch defense. The entire landscape is now drenched in an eerie, blood-red haze. The very air choking with the battle's aftermath, as ominous crimson clouds churn above, their crushing weight bearing down on the ravaged land. A lone figure stands silhouetted against the toxic sky, the very air around them still choking with raw, residual magic. Winky, completely overwhelmed by the suffocating atmosphere, struggles violently, her small frame racked with desperate, hacking coughs. Her breath comes in ragged, desperate gasps, her eyes squeezed shut as she weakly calls out a name. Barely able to breathe in the suffocating air, Winky desperately cries out for Davy, who instantly pulls her into a tight, comforting embrace, promising everything will be okay. He softly whispers, dismissing her fears. But his eyes, glowing crimson, betray a fierce, unspoken resolve. He keeps patting her head, urging Winley to just rest. And she finally relaxes, a small smile gracing her lips as he promises she'll be totally fine after a quick nap. Gently carrying her, he strides through the lingering red haze of the battlefield. His face remains grim. And later, he playfully wakes her up, patting her head again. His hand ignites with a golden aura, ready to conjure something powerful, as he playfully threatens to cook for her if she doesn't get up immediately. He jolts awake, a sudden screech tearing through the air, a gasp escaping his lips. Seeing she's finally awake, he wastes no time, yanking her up by the hand. Talk about responsibility. He's got 3 distinct powers, just like he always knew. And on top of that, the devil mana is absolutely insane, but it's also the most efficient. He's gonna get his hands on it. Even though she's a little brat, she still has to listen to his powerful will. And last but not least, the purest of them all, holy power, flashing brightly from his hand. He extends his hand, barking at her to get up right now. She looks up, protesting that even her holy power is useless without his permission. He's alive. But the fall continues, a dizzying descent through an otherworldly void. Then, a system alert blazes across his vision, screaming Item 4 Holy Power, as Winky materializes, plummeting right beside him. And just as quickly, another system pop-up screams, Blessing of Luxurity. A direct hit on the green-haired powerhouse. Then, a searing, crimson, flash explodes, engulfing everything in its raw power. Before finally fading out. Winky exhales a soft, ha, her eyes locked onto him, a profound realization escaping her, you're the one I've been waiting for. But her inner voice betrays a hidden struggle, a quiet chirp. Sniffle. As she admits, my holy power is still so weak. I have to find a way to power up. A vision of a dark ritual flashes, underscoring her current power ceiling as she declares, right now, I'm stuck at tier 4 holy magic. A chilling thought solidifies her resolve, her power is nowhere near enough, this won't save anyone in the arena. And honestly, why should I even bother? The red energy pulsed, and Davy didn't hesitate, launching himself forward, a thought flashing through his mind, good thing I got out earlier. Suddenly, a monstrous shadow burst forth with a chilling FSH, a terrifying beast emerging from the red void, snarling, now, then. Davy's eyes narrowed, a fierce grrr escaping him, a dark smirk playing on his lips as he thought, no one's watching anyway. His eyes blazed crimson, a chilling declaration forming in his mind, this will be quick and easy. Then, a blur of motion, a devastating kick connected with a resounding clang, the monster reeling from the sheer force. Meanwhile, Winky, still falling, could only stare, a silent SWOSH of wind around her as she witnessed his raw power. Her face, a picture of utter shock, registered the impossible power she had just seen. He lets out a small laugh, a grim acknowledgement of the insane situation, thinking about how these guys are still alive and holding on to their pride, which honestly, makes them pretty impressive. Then his eyes land on her, a knight in shining armor, Elena de Fallen, and her face is just a whole mood of confusion and quiet power. He's watching her, realizing there's way more to it, she doesn't even have her memories, and it's this beautiful, sad truth that probably makes them so incredibly strong. Elena looks totally spaced out, a giant question mark practically floating above her head, her face scrunched up in deep thought. Then, bam, something hits her, her eyes popping wide open in shock. Davy, totally fed up with her zoning out, lets out a massive UGH and yells, can you seriously get yourself together? But Elena's face just locks into pure determination, knowing full well that the danger level hasn't dropped one bit. The tension mounts as Elena's frustration boils over, declaring this isn't some quick fix he can just pull off. Davy, ever the strategist, ponders the limited time they have, then throws the challenge right back at her, solve this. Elena's temper ignites, snapping back that this isn't some trivial banquet performance he can just ace. With a sneer, she presses on, mentioning the nobles of the night with clear contempt. A mysterious book glows, unveiling dark secrets about blood-related entities, ancient remnants from a forgotten tomb. A chilling goblet of blood-red liquid materializes, and the implication hangs heavy, surely, even you know of vampires. Davy's gaze sharpens, his serious demeanor confirming that a lucky break won't cut it against this kind of power. Elena, sword drawn and ready, steps in front of him, her voice sharp with urgency, get out of here, now. But from the depths of the crimson-tinged darkness, a shadowy figure with burning red eyes materializes, a chilling voice declaring that Davy won't be getting away so easily, and promising to personally ensure his capture. He lets out a soft sigh, reflecting on the unwavering reliability of his companion. Meanwhile, Elena stands ready, her sword gleaming, a fierce determination radiating from her as she prepares for whatever comes next. Yet, unlike the day before, this sense of resolve feels far more profound. As if she had encountered her destiny from another life, a destiny now intertwined with the return of a max-level hero. A single drop of water falls, sending ripples across a dark, reflective surface. The scene shifts to a grand, opulent hall, rain streaking down vast windows, as if entering a new domain. Within this lavish setting, a foot clad in a flowing dress steps forward, its movement accompanied by a soft scrape and a faint splash. In a shadowy chamber, a mysterious cloaked figure stands, their back to us, a hushed voice barely audible. Then, bam. We're hit with a close-up of a woman, orange-brown hair, eyes blazing an intense, terrifying red, a dark, powerful aura practically screaming from her as a harsh clang cuts through the air. A heartbreaking sight, a tiny white dress and a tattered teddy bear, just lying there, a quiet thud sealing their fate. Then, a chilling sight, crimson liquid, dripping, splashing into a widening pool. Every single drop, a haunting, hollow sound. The glowing-eyed woman stares down, her face etched with a memory she can't shake, a silent promise that she hasn't forgotten a single moment since that day. Suddenly, we're in a desolate, blood-red wasteland. The cloaked figure is there, facing off against a massive, monstrous entity, its sheer presence radiating raw power and a terrifying, grinding roar. A terrifying close-up of the creature's face, eyes burning with pure, malevolent red light, and then the shocking truth hits, vampire. With a guttural snarl, the monstrous vampire lunges, extending a deadly clawed hand, and declares its terrifying intent, to eradicate its enemies all the way to their roots. Poised on a pulsating red platform, a mysterious figure with flowing orange hair declares her unwavering resolve, ready to push to the absolute limit. Her eyes ignite with an electrifying, golden glow. But a sudden, jarring interruption makes her flinch back, a shocked gasp tearing from her throat. The name Kayak rings out, and she drops with a soft thud. Kayak collapses to her knees, trembling with confusion, barely able to stammer out, What is this? Red energy crackles as she glares at Davy Orwain, demanding answers. I don't get your vampire obsession, but seriously. Davy meets her gaze, a flicker of irritation in his eyes, cutting her off with a sharp, don't get in the way of my work. Then, almost as an afterthought, what do you mean? I wonder. Before she can even blink, he's behind her, seizing her with a firm grip and declaring, just get still and watch. A fist tightens, ready to unleash absolute devastation. He takes a breath, a chilling calm before the chaos, declaring, it's been a while. Get caught in the same trap once, twice, 3 times, and you're done. Confronting a monstrous shadow, he boldly states, if it's a vampire, nobody in this world can surpass me. Well, except for living people, obviously. With eyes blazing red, the monstrous vampire roars, an infected, strengthened blood fool. No problem at all. But before the monster can even twitch, his hand snaps out, locking onto Kayak's wrist, pinning her down. Then, in a blur of motion, he absolutely decimates the vampire with a brutal punch. A cold smirk spreads across his face as he mocks, looks like you still haven't learned your lesson from yesterday. The vampire screeches, a horrifying sound ripping from its throat, its face twisting in pure agony. He clenches his fist again, and a terrifying, dark aura of purple and red energy explodes around his hand, crackling with untold power. Davy Orwain's fist connects with a devastating blow, unleashing a blinding explosion of pink and purple energy. The vampire, eyes blazing crimson, snarls back, challenging him to die by its very essence. But Davy's power is just too much, unleashing a terrifying technique, perforation, blood vessel combustion. The vampire screams, its body tearing itself apart from the inside. Another massive impact sends the creature flying, a blinding flash of red and white energy trailing its desperate flight. Davy doesn't let up, unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks, each one hitting with explosive, bone-shattering power. The vampire, utterly overwhelmed, can only gasp out a single word of pure shock, impossible. With one last, earth-shattering strike, the creature is launched through the air, leaving nothing but a swirling vortex of dust behind. The sheer, raw energy of the battle still crackles in the air, a blinding display of unleashed might. Davy Orwain and his tiny sidekick are free-falling, a wild red energy exploding around them as the world screams, the max-level hero is back. Just a short distance away, Elena's face is etched with pure concern. A different figure is absolutely gawking upwards, utterly bewildered by the unfolding chaos. Bathed in a fierce crimson glow, Davy's eyes lock onto a monstrous, shadowy titan dominating the horizon. His jaw drops, eyes wide with disbelief. And get this, the tiny white creature right next to him starts absolutely glowing with a fierce red aura, powering up like crazy. The creature hops onto his shoulder, and Davy's mind is blown, realizing his status window is totally different now. Elena freaks out, yelling for whatever this is to stay away. Davy stands, a faint shimmer of light surrounding him, ready for whatever comes next. He extends a hand down to Elena, offering a lifeline and urging her to grab on. Yet, her hand remains empty, unable to connect with his outstretched palm. She looks up, a soft exclamation escaping her lips as she desperately struggles to reach him. A quiet thud marks her failure, and she casts her gaze downward, a wave of distress washing over her. Davy's hand reaches out again, but Elena's hand pulls back, a subtle swoosh of air accompanying her retreat. He then asks her, let me borrow your blade. Both stand, a shared moment of confusion hanging between them, marked by silent question marks. What could he mean? Elena, flustered and blushing, attempts to explain the situation, but her embarrassment is palpable. The legendary blade, steeped in the echoes of countless wars, lay waiting. But her eyes widened in utter disbelief, a sharp, defiant no, tearing from her. Davy, however, wasn't asking for just any blade, his fist clenched with unwavering resolve, pointing to the true prize. Her jaw dropped, a stunned, you. How? Escaping her as he simply smirked, the sheer audacity of his demand hanging heavy in the air. Then, in a flash, a miniature, shimmering replica of the legendary god's sword materialized in his outstretched palm, a testament to his power. He then made his audacious demand, let me borrow your sword, the god's sword. Centuries ago, a legendary blacksmith poured his very soul into forging the ultimate weapon, a sword destined to save the world, alongside an arsenal of other incredible creations. His powerful silhouette, wreathed in the fiery glow of magical chains, hammered relentlessly, shaping destiny with every strike. With this divine blessing, ordinary ores were utterly transmuted into legendary swords. And worthless junk became unimaginable treasures. For he, touched by divine grace, could forge blades pulsating with raw mana. His masterpieces became national treasures, revered across the entire continent. But of all the incredible creations of his life, the legendary blacksmith searcher named only one. In the ancient elven tongue, these weapons were known as god swords. Each one unique, each with its own name, but the most legendary of them all was forged as a gift to his friend, the sword god Yaris, by burning Surtra's very life force. A sword capable of piercing through the heavens itself. Davy processes the epic tale, confirming it sounds like the sword he's after, but then he throws a curveball, questioning, but how true is it, really? A sword with a will of its own, is that even possible? His eyes gleam with a mischievous glint as he then challenges, so, do you want to know how it really is? Davy gets blindsided, a furious shout ripping from him as he's seized. The impact rattles his very skull, just like the legends warned, and he is not amused. His eyes ignite with a terrifying crimson glow, raw power crackling around him as he snarls, I'm not deaf. His fist flares with energy, clenched tight. And in a flash, he's got the tiny, infuriating Winky by the head. She thrashes, screaming about a sword with its own will, but he's unyielding. His stare is pure intensity. His hand still outstretched, a silent command for her to yield. A sickening thud, and she collapses, utterly subdued in his grip. He gazes down at her, a chilling concern in his voice as he delivers a stark warning, keep this up, and she's dead. A raw scream tears through the air as the god's sword's power surges, proving too much for her to handle. Only a true genius could ever hope to master such a weapon. He kneels, watching her struggle, acknowledging her raw talent but seeing the glaring lack of development, a stark reminder that knowing your limits is just as vital as having power. A sly smirk crosses his face as he mentally chastises himself, don't even think about doing anything so reckless. I won't. But then, with a blinding flash of golden light, he thrusts his hand forward, unleashing an explosive wave of power. His eyes blaze with an infernal crimson, as raw golden energy crackles and surges around him. He seizes the god's sword, and it instantly erupts in a blinding, golden radiance. The blade becomes a maelstrom of his golden power and the lingering crimson energies, a chaotic tempest of magic barely contained. Its edge pulses with raw, concentrated might. He rises, a figure of pure power, holding the fully activated god's sword high, golden particles swirling like a divine aura around him. He grips the god's sword, a faint glow emanating from its hilt, a smirk playing on his lips as he takes it all in. The blade hums in his hand, and he can feel its power, a clear sign it's chosen him. But he's not here for a chat, he silences the sword's excited hum, showing it who's boss. The god's sword flares with an insane golden light, as he commands it to unleash its full, devastating power. Pure golden energy explodes from him, engulfing the blade as he moves, pouring his raw power into the legendary weapon. The sword is blazing now, and he's ready to finish this, declaring he'll handle everything. But from the sidelines, a voice filled with pure shock and awe, can only stammer out a question, wondering who this powerhouse truly is. Then, a blinding, explosive flash of golden light erupts, as the god's sword hits maximum power. The legendary weapon is now completely engulfed in a colossal, shimmering golden aura, its power resonating with an earth-shattering force. Boom! A blinding flash erupts as a great holy magic lightning strike absolutely obliterates the air. Its immense power absolutely shattering the grand hall with a thunderous kaboom. Outside, the sky explodes with crackling lightning, momentarily revealing a shadowy figure on horseback, pure menace in a storm. Davy stands his ground, his voice a steel-cold challenge cutting through the chaos, how long are you gonna stay hidden? He stares up, spotting a tiny, red, bat-like creature trying to flee, and with a chilling command, he forces it to come out. Then, with a series of violent crackles, the shimmering blue barrier shatters into a million pieces. Blue energy crackles around Davy as he watches the barrier explode, expecting a vampire, but what he finds is a total shocker. A shadowy, bat-like creature with glowing red eyes and a crackling purple aura bursts forth, and Davy can't help but scoff at its surprisingly low rank. The creature's purple aura absolutely explodes, crackling with raw, ominous power around its form. The barrier explodes, and the shadowy figure finally takes shape, revealing a terrifying, bat-like form. A soft rustle, and then, a flood of purple hair and those terrifying, glowing red eyes snap into focus. Fully revealed, the creature locks eyes with its opponent, a chilling question cutting through the air, are we acquainted? And then, a bizarre twist, it declares, Ms. Maid. A mysterious purple-haired figure with massive bat wings descends, dropping a bombshell, she was supposed to die, but someone else took her out. Below, the protagonist, sword ready, just smirks, thinking he's a pretty big deal now. Ms. Maid, still airborne, snarls at him to get down, insulting him by saying he's an eyesore. But as she gets closer, Davy Orwain, ever the provocateur, just casually points out that her dress is so revealing he can see her underwear. Her red eyes blaze with pure rage, his personality clearly pushing her over the edge. He just gives her a smug, knowing look, totally ready for the fireworks. Then, with a terrifying screech, a clawed wing strikes. The impact sends him absolutely rocketing backward, a mere streak against the backdrop. The sheer force of the last blow still hangs heavy, a green shockwave tearing through the very air itself. Then, another wave of raw purple energy slams through, and a furious voice screams for him to get down. And from above, her eyes blaze with an infernal red, her entire being consumed by a dark, swirling vortex of power. She proclaims her destiny to become the next emperor, her voice dripping with venomous resentment for the fallen, a memory she'll never, ever let go of. Her rage boils over, as she condemns him for daring to disrespect the dead, completely oblivious to the sheer magnitude of her wrath. Even after being slammed to the ground, Davy Orwain just grins up at her, a defiant glint in his eyes as he ponders how to mess with her even more. His words are like gasoline on a fire, her eyes exploding with light as she absolutely seethes at his utter disregard for her pain. With a furious, explosive surge, she unleashes a devastating, crimson blast right from her open palm. Ms. Maid unleashes a devastating crimson energy blast, ripping through the very fabric of reality with an explosive crackle. Its raw destructive power surging relentlessly as it hurtles towards its unsuspecting target. The blast connects with an earth-shattering impact, sending shockwaves and debris exploding in every direction. Davy Orwain is violently launched backward by the sheer power, his body a blur before he slams down with a resounding thud onto a precarious stone pillar. A wicked smirk spreads across Ms. Maid's face as she watches his defiant recovery, a chilling whisper escaping her lips, riled up quite nicely. Her own crimson aura explodes in response, sparkling with an almost terrifying surge of power. But then, from the shattered pillar, Davy Orwain begins to ignite, a brilliant, defiant light erupting from him as he channels his inner power. He stands, a figure of pure power, radiating an intense white-gold aura, a defiant beacon against the encroaching, malevolent darkness. With an explosive surge, he launches himself from the pillar, a blinding blur of motion rocketing directly towards Ms. Maid. Davy Orwain explodes into action, a blazing crimson trail marking his path. As he unleashes a lightning-fast sword strike. The impact rings out, a shower of sparks igniting the air. And he doesn't let up, rocketing off a curved surface with insane momentum. His hand clenches around his sword. A raw burst of power erupting. Channeling directly into his blade. As he charges, pure determination etched onto his face. A sharp, dismissive sound cuts through the air. While Ms. Maid, towering on a stone pillar, gazes down with utter disdain, declaring, "This might be too much for your tiny brain, but at the end of the day, you're just a human." But Davy isn't backing down, firing back with a defiant question, "Aren't you just some human's lackey?" With a fierce kook, Ms. Maid drops from her high ground, her body blazing with a menacing red energy. A sudden realization hits him, Vampire Lord. Ms. Maid then drops some serious knowledge, revealing, they're not just strong, they're ridiculously strong. We're talking top tier, even stronger than their creators. And their craziest power? They can literally inherit the Vampire Lord's abilities and memories. With a dramatic flourish, she adds, "A lord. You can't just take them down. You need a holy weapon or some serious high elf magic." Davy's eyes widen as the pieces click into place, aha. So that's why you can't beat them. Ms. Maid smirks, delivering the final blow of information, doesn't matter how many times they die, they just keep coming back. It's awesome, it's enigmatic, it's pure power. And here's the kicker, the Vampire Lord's self-preservation is off the charts. Where they are to be. Ms. Maid drops another bombshell, quoting the legendary sword god himself. For him, it was all about the win, and she's totally here for that energy. And get this, the Vampire Lord's survival instincts are off the charts. Davy's mind races, imagining the chaos if their real identity ever got out. Suddenly, a blinding golden energy explodes, kicking off an epic clash from the past. The sword god, a green flash, unleashes a devastating sword strike, making the red-clad vampire count scramble to block with a desperate energy shield. No mercy. He pushes forward, his foot slamming down with brutal impact. Then, a whirlwind of slashes. The sword god's speed is insane, driving the vampire count back relentlessly. And then, the finisher. The sword god delivers an explosive, game-ending strike, blasting through the vampire count's last defenses in a blinding burst. Victory. The sword god stands tall, blade poised, over the utterly crushed vampire count, who's down for the count. Flash forward. Davy, now gripping a massive axe, drops the bombshell, it's a vampire count. The stakes just got real. Ms. Maid is watching the young one, calculating her future. She knows if this kid is left alone, she could become a lord. Back in the present, Davy is fired up, saying they need to handle this now, but someone's wondering if it's even possible. Davy just smirks, throwing the challenge right back, asking if they really think it's impossible. Suddenly, a flashback. The sword god goes all out, unleashing a devastating sword attack, red energy ripping through everything with a massive quan. Ms. Maid is fed up, muttering about this endless cycle, while in the past, a blonde woman is worried, saying even with the sword god's blessing, the kid is still just a kid. The blonde woman keeps going, stressing that the kid is still exposed, as the sword god watches Elena plummeting through the air, hitting the ground with a quiet "tak." Then, a blinding, massive explosion of white and red energy just detonates, rocking everything with a thunderous quang. Back to the present, Ms. Maid's face contorts into a rage-filled snarl, a fiery red aura exploding around her as she reacts to everything. And the flashback continues. The sword god is a blur, dashing forward with insane speed, his sword out and leaving fiery red energy trails behind him. Ms. Maid observes, a scoff escaping her as she judges the situation. Red energy ribbons ignite around her, a silent judgment forming. Her mind already dismissing the legendary sword god's techniques. Yet, as the vision intensifies, a shockwave of realization hits her, forcing her to reconsider everything. Meanwhile, the sword god, with a confident smirk, prepares to drop some serious knowledge about the real sword god's techniques. He unleashes a flurry of thousands of sword swings, a brutal, repetitive regimen that's more than just training, it's obsession. His hand clenches, the sword hilt blazing with raw power. As he scoffs at any cute techniques and unleashes the devastating Great Claymore. Then, with a single, earth-shattering strike, the sword god unleashes the Grand Mountain Splitter, a move that could literally tear the world apart. With a primal roar, he unleashes an absolutely blinding golden energy, which instantly shatters the very earth beneath it, erupting into an absolutely colossal beam of light and raw force, absolutely pulverizing the landscape into countless flying shards. As the sheer, unbridled power rips through the terrain, leaving nothing but utter devastation in its wake. The forest pulses with an otherworldly glow, and Davy can't help but scoff, taking in the bizarre, shimmering trees. Elena, ever the pragmatist, points out that this is exactly why people use magic, but Davy just brushes it off, totally uninterested in that kind of power. He flashes back to someone telling him to shut up, and a mischievous grin spreads across his face. Davy explodes forward, raw power blasting from his hand, shouting that he's all about absolute strength, then challenges Elena, asking if she's on the same level. Elena reaches out, a thoughtful look on her face, admitting she always felt like something was missing, and just tells him to keep going. Davy's eyes widen, totally caught off guard by her words, demanding to know what she's talking about. He keeps pushing forward, a fierce purple aura blazing behind him, while Elena drops a bombshell, revealing she believes in his original master's teachings. The scene cuts to a pulsating, glowing red crystal, its energy swirling with an ominous, almost terrifying hum. Davy's mind races, picturing the sheer chaos of Bloodpolis. A city where any human who dares to enter is doomed to become a monster. Or even worse, devoured, with the infected only growing stronger the longer they're exposed. It's absolutely wild to him that people there are still preaching amidst all that chaos, crediting their survival to the Holy Sword and Holy Knights. But he can't shake the feeling that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong with them being called masters. He knows he'll need divine power to shatter any aura, declaring his strength isn't some low-ranked divinity like theirs. True enlightenment and profoundness, he muses, only come from reaching a certain level. And it was precisely that understanding that allowed Davy to achieve his current power, a realization that suddenly snaps his attention to a glowing, ornate sword. As Davy grapples with the holy sword's true nature, a voice screams, "It's a total monster," only for another to quickly cut in, "But it's..." The initial voice doubles down, claiming, there's never been a holy sword that could use all 5 types of mana, and that the human mana here is totally different from anything they've seen. But Davy, ever the skeptic, challenges the claim, asking if it's even true, while the voice just brushes him off as crazy. The voice then issues a stern warning, telling him not to denounce the results of hundreds of years of research like that. Suddenly, a massive surge of energy erupts from the glowing sword, its light flaring with an intense shimmer. Davy, cutting through the noise, tells the sword, enough with the chatter. Then, with a smirk, he adds, "Since we're here, I'll leave it to you to finish it off." The sword, or the voice, demands clarification, asking, "What does that mean?" as Davy coolly replies, "Since I won't be able to use my own strength." Davy, with a determined glint, clarifies his intent, declaring, "I'm saying I'll finish it," as a faint, dark aura crackles around him. He then reveals his true, pragmatic motivations, admitting that he had no thoughts of sacrificing himself for others, but if it helps him get stronger, then he might as well get paid for it. Time to power up. Davy brings his hands together, and a mysterious glow ignites, ready to unleash the sword's true potential. He's tapping into the power of a god, a previous owner's legacy. But wait, something's off, it's not quite right. The sword's like, "Dude, your mana is weird, it won't work on evil." But Davy's all, "Nah, I like it different." Talk about a power flex. Suddenly, the sword explodes with raw power, a blinding light. Davy's mind is blown, what is this thing? The legendary blade just stands there, glowing with an otherworldly aura. Davy's like, "Hello? I totally wrecked demons with this thing. This god sword can do anything." A wicked smirk crosses his face, the sword's weakness against good guys. That's actually a huge advantage, no collateral damage worries. He just shrugs it off, like, whatever, I'm doing what I want. Permission or not, this sword is his to command. The sword practically glows with defiance, like it's saying, as if any god would listen to that prayer. Still locked in thought, he stares at the holy sword, knowing its sacred purpose is protection, yet also its supposed weakness against the good. But he's heard that before, countless times. He'll just use it to obliterate the bad guys, simple as that. Back in the day, holy magic, fueled by pure faith, was all about boosting the strongest holy warriors. With a fierce glint in his eye, Davy proclaims that the gods themselves love a little bit of crazy. He reaches out, and bam! A sudden, explosive crackle of raw energy bursts from the sword. The blade ignites, glowing with an insane light, splitting and reforming right before his eyes. Then, a golden aura explodes, cracking the sword and unleashing insane pressure. Is this thing trying to kill him with its new 7th rank power? But even with that insane power, he just stares it down, promising the weapon it won't die. And just like that, the sword fully transforms into a blinding golden blade, its power absolutely unleashed, leaving Davy on his knees, overwhelmed but totally resolute. The holy sword's transformation was far from over, unleashing an explosive, fiery burst of white and crimson energy that screamed with untamed power. The light exploded outwards, a colossal, ethereal wave of pure power that threatened to engulf reality itself. The sheer, unbridled power was too much, and Davy could only gasp, fighting to keep his mind from shattering under the pressure. He let out a guttural grunt, his face a mask of pure strain as he wrestled with the monstrous power now coursing through him. Suddenly, with a deafening crack and an earth-shattering boom, a colossal, blinding golden explosion ripped through the air, unleashing pure, unadulterated power. The golden light surged, a tidal wave of energy, engulfing the entire city in its radiant embrace, a silent, awe-inspiring display of ultimate power. He reached out his hand, and it pulsed with the sword's raw, golden energy, a direct link to unimaginable power. Then, as he gazed upwards, magnificent, ethereal golden wings of pure light erupted from his back, a breathtaking symbol of his absolute mastery and the terrifying new power he now commanded. The holy sword's raw power still courses through him, a blinding golden aura erupting from his very being. That explosive energy rips through the entire arena, a shockwave that shatters the very atmosphere. He lets out a sharp gasp, the sheer, unbridled force of that blast hitting him like a truck. Staring at the smoking crater, he can't help but wonder what just hit him, feeling like he'd been branded by a superheated iron. He challenges the legendary weapon, demanding to know if the godly sword is even still in one piece after that insane power-up. A frustrated groan escapes him, finding the sword's chaotic energy absolutely infuriating. But then, a smirk spreads across his face, a casual, oh, no, as the sword still crackles with untamed power, buried deep in the ground. Meanwhile, a piercing crimson eye, crackling with dark energy, observes the entire spectacle from the shadows. A sinister hand reaches out, glowing with an ominous red light, as the unseen watcher cackles, labeling him a total lunatic, while the incredible truth about Elena, the fallen hero's spirit, is finally unveiled. Still buzzing from the sheer power, Davy stares up at the radiant blade, a cheeky grin forming as he calls out to Freya, the sentient sword, wondering if she's not going a little overboard with the energy. But elsewhere, the spectral form of Elena, the legendary fallen hero's spirit, watches on with piercing blue eyes, her silent gaze holding an untold secret. Elena can't help but wonder when she last got to sleep this long without a single worry. And it hits her that this kind of peace was only possible because of her brother. Back in the palace, a maid bows low to Davy, apologizing with a hushed, "Sorry, your highness," while the prince, on a total whim, just wants to clear his head. Then, out of nowhere, Elena's eyes shoot open. And a desperate, urgent shout rips from her, "Brother!" The setting changes to a fancy lodging in the Philist dukedom, and someone's asking how he's doing. Davy's eyes flutter open, his head still foggy as he asks, "How long was I out?" A super worried maid is right there, her voice shaking as she blurts out, "I'm so scared you're just gonna vanish again." Elena stares at Davy, a flicker of concern in her gaze, noting his deep slumber wasn't in vain, and then drops a bombshell: she had a dream that very day. A dream, she ponders. A vivid vision where she was consumed by a terrifying red mist, and he, her brother, was her savior. Facing him with an intense gaze, she demands to know if he was the one who pulled her from the clutches of that ominous red mist. Davy's still recovering in bed, but Elena isn't done, revealing a mysterious mark found during his checkup, with the maid silently taking it all in. A bizarre, glowing symbol is etched onto his back, a shocking visual confirmation of the maid's cryptic statement. Elena's eyes fixate on the mark, her voice trembling with a chilling question: "Is this a stigma?" With a grave expression, the maid reveals this isn't the first time, confirming a dark, recurring mystery that plagues him. And the bombshell drops: the crown prince himself was the one who found it, and he truly fell because of its devastating power. Not only did the red mist get totally wiped out, but Davy was chilling in the middle of a holy power hotspot, all with that crazy stigma on his back. He gulps, connecting the dots, and figures he's just a walking disaster. Forget priests, his stigma basically screams devil with an unbeatable cheat code. The maid, looking totally stumped, admits she has no clue what the stigma even is, but she knows it's a huge deal, leaving her wondering, what now? Davy's still trying to figure out his stigma's real power, but one thing's for sure, it's not staying a secret. The Crown Prince's epic downfall and everyone else getting messed up because of it is a massive red flag. Yeah, this whole thing is definitely going to be a massive headache. He's like, my bad, I blacked out during the whole thing, so he's got no clue what went down. The maid just nods, and Elena's like, yeah, that makes total sense. Then the maid asks, how are you feeling, wondering if he's hurt anywhere, and he just says, well, as you can see. He checks his hand, which is faintly glowing, and confesses the real issue is he feels totally awesome, not even a little bit tired. He quickly rephrases, should I say I'm good, because the magic he burned during the red mist wasn't just refilled, he actually leveled up his devil power way beyond what he ever expected. His mana capacity had exploded, a vibrant pink and purple energy swirling around his hand, surrounded by a powerful blue aura. This surge in power directly affected his holy and dark mana, making both stronger than ever. Of his three energies, the holy power had received the most significant boost, making him wonder if this was truly the raw power of a stigma. He mused on the idea of gaining strength through such intense experiences, cursing the very holy powers that had brought him to this point. His maid, sitting beside him, reminded him of the trouble he had caused, especially for her, his personal attendant. With a faint red glow in his eyes, he acknowledged her concern, admitting he was beginning to remember the events more clearly. She continued, explaining that not only had he caused trouble, but Princess Elena herself had come for him, claiming there was a proper treatment for his stigma and attempting to take him away. Davy agreed that the situation had been dire, especially when she added that he would have been executed if he hadn't gone with her, making him grateful to still be alive. Meanwhile, a voice from an unseen location reassured someone not to worry about Harris. He was totally healed, and the tournament that caused all that chaos. Done and dusted. Back in his room, Davy's plotting a compromise, thinking he'll take his sweet time but make sure his brother stays safe. Across the castle, Elena's just like, is that really all there is to it? Later, checking his own stats, listed as, Barian, level 100, no title, human, no class, no abilities, but a bad stigma and normal condition, Davy's mind races, asking if this stigma is the cause of all this weirdness, and why it's even a thing. Clutching a glowing blue crystal, he's deep in thought, was it that prayer? Or maybe using mana in his astral form? He's decided, they can fake a fight all they want, but he's making sure they don't even get a finger on the god's grace. Then, a sudden, sharp sound makes him yelp in shock, eyes bugging out as he stares down. A loud click rings out, leaving him absolutely stunned. He locks onto the source of the sudden, unsettling click, a faint, pulsing glow now demanding his attention. What is this? His mind races, instantly calculating, deciding to play it safe. His gaze snaps upward, voices echoing, as a hand descends from the ethereal, beckoning him into the unknown. A stunning figure, all flowing purple hair and piercing red eyes, materializes from a storm of glowing butterflies, extending an enigmatic offer of aid. If this is truly the fabled grace of the gods, she muses, then she'll play their game, for now. A majestic, ornate archway, pulsating with an otherworldly glow, shimmers into existence. Moments later, with Elena by his side, Davy clutches the glowing artifact, seeking her counsel on its purpose and if she trusts his judgment. Elena, bewildered, demands an explanation. He dissects the mysterious figure's image in his mind, the telltale bracelet, the slanted red pupils, a demon, he concludes, perhaps mid-transformation. He then informs Elena that the figure is undoubtedly one of those who flaunt God's grace, validating her own suspicions. The intense discussion continues as Elena breaks down the chilling truth, a demon is just a creature twisted by a devil's raw power. Davy nods, revealing that some demons can actually break free from that corruption and ascend to become full-blown devils. Elena's mind races, asking what happens if one actually pulls it off. He confirms the terrifying truth, they become a devil. Suddenly, the narrative shifts, dropping a bombshell name, Perselk. And get this, she was once human. The dark history unfolds, painting a grim picture of a father's agonizing choice, forced to cut off his own daughter's head with his blade, as if it was the only way. This horrific sacrifice somehow allowed him to finally find peace, dying of old age on the war-torn fields, all to bring an end to a brutal war, a war against none other than the Demon King of the Western. Then, the shocking truth drops. The enigmatic Ms. Maid is none other than Perselk von Ferran. Her crimson eye flares with raw power, and Davy's mind reels with the shocking realization, the Demon King, Perselk. Davy's jaw drops as her voice cuts through the air, confirming his suspicions and acknowledging his knowledge of her true identity, leaving him utterly stunned. Perselk stands there, regal and powerful, as Davy's voice rings out, confirming his gut feeling, his eyes had never lied. Davy is absolutely reeling, sitting there, mind blown after the massive reveal. What's going through his head right now? A chilling voice cuts through the silence, dropping a bombshell. What if he's just a vessel? Davy, startled from his thoughts, shoots back. Is this some kind of twisted game? But the voice presses on, dropping another bomb, claiming this isn't their first meeting. Davy, still reeling in his bed, grapples with the chilling truth, a demonic creature, a vessel. It's all too real. The voice lays it all out, confirming the vessel is ready, a demon's new home, its abnormal size a dead giveaway. Davy can't help but scoff at the sheer audacity, a spirit trying to seal a demon king. Seriously? Meanwhile, a demonic figure with horns and wings repeats the exact same terrifying question, what if he's just a vessel? And then confirms it, he is the vessel. The demoness, with a sneer, continues her tale, the villain actually accepted it. How pathetic. Still processing the bombshell, he lets out a sharp, tch, a dismissive sound as the conversation instantly loses its grip on him, finding the whole thing utterly pathetic. From her imposing throne, Ms. Maid cuts straight to the chase, her voice sharp, demanding to know what a demon king, sealed by a holy sword, could possibly want with her. She demands a direct, no-nonsense conversation, cutting through any potential fluff. Davy, finding her utterly twisted, decides to play along, dropping the bombshell that his body is a vessel for a demon king, then offering a proper introduction. Ms. Maid's face contorts in utter disbelief, convinced he's completely clueless. A demon king as a vessel? Impossible. Especially when her enemy was the one who dragged her, Revel, to the demon king's side. It's that enemy, she thinks, who's behind this whole mess. The ultimate culprit, the demon king of the western continent, Perslek, whose ancient, terrifying history now looms before her in a monstrous form. This was the entire legend passed down, the absolute truth, the demon king is already sealed within a sword. A fact she once scoffed at, but now knows is undeniable. Ms. Maid snaps her gaze back to Davy, demanding to know what he thinks. Is this really the demon king? He feels completely different from the one she knows. Her reaction said it all, Davy knew he was right. But Ms. Maid, totally offended, fired back, calling him petty and condescending. She scoffed, there was no way Caldrus would ever corner himself like that. But then she admitted, he was totally cornered by her for years. Davy just shrugged, asking if they couldn't just find another demon king. Davy demanded a straight answer, and she dropped the lore bomb, the demon king needed to be reborn to get his power back. He called her out, demanding a better reason for her doubt. She admitted she didn't know, which made Davy realize she was just guessing about Caldrus's moves, then he hit her with the ultimate question, wasn't she ready for this? She was ready, but then dropped a bombshell, Elena was the one who took the Revel to the demon king. Davy confirmed it, and added that Caldrus would totally spill the beans about the Revel to everyone. Her eyes widened in sudden understanding as she finally pieced together what he was saying. Ms. Maid is totally chill about the demon king being dead, but Davy's not having it, immediately calling her out on even bringing him up. She snaps back, correcting his assumption that she sacrificed people, and he's left speechless. Ms. Maid tries to play it off, saying she only sacrificed the demon king, but Davy hits back hard, accusing her of sacrificing people for her twisted ideals, and she's totally blindsided. He doubles down, hammering home that she's the one who sacrificed people for her own twisted thoughts, his stare absolutely piercing. Davy can't even believe that some higher will would use Elena, calling her a half-crazy person, who just idolizes her older brother, as the very fabric of reality seems to warp around their intense conversation. But Ms. Maid isn't backing down, claiming he has no clue about the Demon King, and that this whole thing is way more intense than just some half-kill. Davy fires back, demanding to know how she could possibly judge his understanding, then drops the bombshell, he got his memories back after almost dying, and now he knows exactly who she is. His eyes blaze with raw power as he makes it crystal clear he's talking about her own strength, not just some intel. This power is just like the insane abilities he rocked in his past life, hinting he's about to unlock even more epic skills. Ms. Maid, with a sly grin, weighs Davy's shocking revelations, wondering if this unexpected turn is a good deal, then declares she's closing it. Little did she know, the contract tying Perselk was already on its last legs, unexpectedly terminated. Davy, still reeling from the intense talk, questions if he even has a say, though the answer is crystal clear in his mind. Facing him directly, Ms. Maid boldly states she'll tackle things her way, solo. She muses on how she's accidentally found someone to spill all her secrets to. Just a few days later, in the bustling Continental Empire, the legendary Grand Duke, once the continent's strongest swordsman, was now a total puppet, controlled by the Crown Prince's crew, and guess who was pulling the strings? Davy. A massive cathedral dominates the city skyline. Davy vows to get stronger, knowing weakness isn't an option, because being a puppet? That's just not his game. He's deep in thought, challenging the very idea of what it means to crave power. Is it really so wrong to want to be strong? But Ms. Maid, ever the pragmatist, cuts through the philosophical fog, declaring that true power is simply seen as undeniable proof of God's love. Davy, though, isn't having it, shutting down her dangerous talk before quickly refocusing on the task at hand, confirming he's got the right document. This page, he notes, details the legends of Ephraim and Sem, two figures who broke all the rules in their relentless pursuit of ultimate power. A smirk plays on his lips as he embraces his chaotic destiny, proclaiming himself made for trouble. Moments later, a green-haired man in glasses is absolutely floored by Davy's words, his jaw practically hitting the floor in shock. The green-haired man can barely string a sentence together, utterly bewildered by Davy's actions, who, in turn, finds the constant explanations utterly exhausting. The man then tries to pinpoint the topic, asking if they're talking about the holy ground. The green-haired man nods in agreement with Davy's point, but Davy can't wrap his head around why people keep stubbornly flocking to them, even with all the trouble it causes. A knowing smile spreads across Davy's face, as he confirms that this place, even if only for a short time, is undeniably sacred ground. Turns out, half the entire city is now considered holy ground, so the smartest move is to just bail on this whole complicated mess. Time to get out of here, fast. Davy strides out of a lavish chamber, briefcase in hand, ready for whatever's next. A voice cuts through the air, challenging him, seriously, you're just gonna roll back in like this? The voice presses on, trying to butter him up about his grand return, but he just shrugs it off with a cool, that's fine. Then, with a casual glance, he pivots the conversation, so, who's the top pick for the best agent? Elsewhere, Elena sips her tea, looking absolutely regal, but her gaze is sharp, calculating. Someone nudges her, hey, you gonna speak up? Just spill it, lady. Elena's eyes narrow, her voice dripping with accusation, you just bailed on them, didn't you? And not only did he leave a total disaster, he even cooked up some insane rumor. Her voice escalates, a fiery accusation, and you ditched your own younger siblings, didn't you? Someone tries to cut in, stammering, what? We sent people, but they were all ready. Elena silences them with a scathing glare, in this mess, you seriously can't afford to be so arrogant, Prince. That dumb rumor got out because you already swore an oath. The other person can only manage a choked, Prince. Elena's fury explodes, a single, raw word tearing through the air. Her explosive word draws a shocked gasp and a quick warning from an attendant, but Elena, absolutely seething, doubles down on her raw emotions. Her eyes dart away, a fleeting doubt clouding her furious expression as she questions if he's actually gone for good. No one had ever seen the refined Princess Elena de Fallon lose her cool like this, screaming with such raw, untamed aggression. Then, with a fierce resolve, she barks orders for the servants to get ready to move, right now. Her sudden, intense command draws a shocked instant, from an unseen voice, clearly taken aback by her immediate demand. Night descends on a sprawling estate, with a mystical moon and a pink celestial body bathing the rooftops in an otherworldly glow. But inside, in a lavish chamber, Elena is chilling on a bed, locked in conversation with a green-haired dude next to her. He flashes a gentle smile, dropping a casual comment about how some things just look good as they are, and she just gives a quiet nod. Meanwhile, Davy is deep in thought, hand on his chin, mulling over a question of regret, wondering to himself. Suddenly, a thought of Ms. Maid hits him, a flashback to how she was the only one obsessed with the god sword, the absolute strength seeker. Davy keeps reflecting, a slight smirk on his face as he thinks about what it means to be a master, admitting it's a title everyone wants. He's honest with himself, no way he's using those insane holy powers until he gets his own strength back. Then, a blinding, golden light explodes, swirling with pure energy, a visual of the holy power he's desperate to get back. But even with all that power, he still feels it's not his to claim, even though it's super tempting to just take it. He thinks about how he and Elena just wouldn't vibe with that kind of weapon, admitting it's totally not his style. It's not about using some hand-me-down sword, he explains, it's just that he hasn't gotten his hands on the real one yet. Because he's already got a specific sword in mind, its power practically glowing like a blood-red moon. That's a weird way she put it, he muses, wondering just how much the maid actually knows. Meanwhile, from some shadowy, mystical realm, Ms. Maid declares that even she isn't all-knowing. She doesn't even need to see him to get it, because there are things even she can't fully grasp. He mulls over her cryptic words about the demon king of the Western continent, trying to figure out if it's a straight-up threat or just a heads-up. Ms. Maid's chilling voice cuts through the air, a stark reminder of his past power, how he once brought down the royal family and the reckless nobles without a second thought. He processes her words, realizing his own opinion is meaningless because Duke Beretta, the true power behind the Beretta kingdom, already agrees. There's absolutely nothing he can do to change it. The world has witnessed countless individuals obsessed with raw power, and their actions are precisely why things are the way they are. But now, a solution has finally emerged. It's a massive relief that the blame falls squarely on those who dared to defy the tides of time, and this is truly joyous news. It's fine. A red-haired figure approaches, declaring he's delivered the news. Davy, now sporting a green coat, snaps his head up, demanding, "Is it Hope?" The man confirms it, dropping a bombshell: the Demon King of the Western Continent has manifested. Davy, now in a striking red coat, sits in stunned silence, the weight of the news settling upon him. He drops to his knees, admitting his unworthiness for having defied the era's flow, yet still, it's incredibly joyous news. A queen, with her stunning blonde hair, dramatically asks an unseen figure for their opinion, her red fan a striking accessory. After a quick, "Yes, your majesty," very joyous, indeed, she leans in, her eyes still closed, a subtle smirk hinting at her true thoughts as she demands to know if it's all true. Davy, sitting across from her, coolly replies, "Of course, it is," but inside, he's seething, fully aware that a child's happiness is a delicate, easily shattered thing. Back in the opulent hall, a red-haired messenger updates the queen, confirming Duke Beretta's got it covered, and a report to the Veltas kingdom is all that's needed, keeping her hands clean. From her towering throne, the queen eyes Davy and dismisses him, telling him he must be wiped out from his travels and needs to chill. He gives a respectful bow, replying, "As you will, your majesty," but his mind is already elsewhere, fixated on DMV. Just as he's about to make his exit, the queen's voice cuts through the air, ordering him to hold up. And just like that, half a year has flown by. He tells the queen he's been up since she called, and get this, it's been half a year since they last even talked. Then, a distinguished man with a mustache asks if he resents him, and Davy just straight up says there's no point in lying. The throne room is dead silent, making you wonder just how long it's been since these two actually talked. Davy points out that the man probably heard everything through the head chamberlain, and the man's like, "Yeah, I knew," giving props to Davy's keen senses. Davy thinks, "Yep, I was right," and wonders how much that woman, who swore she wouldn't meddle, has changed in 6 months. He tells his father he might not be the most clued-in guy, but then his father cuts him off, asking if he wanted to see him. Davy admits he's been thinking about this for ages, and he's got something big to say. He thanks his father for showing up, and his dad is totally taken aback. Dropping to his knees, Davy begs his father to save his mother. But his father's inner thoughts drop a bombshell: he already knows she was murdered. Davy, on his knees, hears his father's chilling declaration: his mother's plight wasn't illness, but a venomous curse. Enough. Father. Please, he screams, his voice cracking with desperation. His father, unyielding, declares guardian spirits are just a transaction, but Davy's "no" echoes, a desperate plea against the harsh truth. With a chilling finality, his father's voice demands, "Reveal the truth." Then, the ultimate betrayal, his father deflects, claiming he's blameless, and that Davy's mother herself chose to let go. But a searing question burns in Davy's mind: how could he abandon the mother he once loved? With chilling composure, his father confesses the queen's influence, and for the kingdom's stability, he abandoned his mother and married their foe. Davy's face twists in agony, taking the blame upon himself, and furiously rejects any interest in his father's new romance. The father, detached, gazes away, claiming he merely sought survival, feeling nothing, for even a millennium of life meant memories would fade like fleeting dreams. He's haunted by his mother's final, "Poison please," a memory that ripped through his emotional defenses, leaving a permanent scar no matter how hard he tried to shut down. Her last words, "Forgive me," echoed as tears fell, and then, she was gone. His father's chilling ambition cuts in, revealing his drive to become a king of ultimate understanding and power, a king who could make anything happen. Back then, he was helpless, ignorant, failing as both a king and a father, because a crown doesn't magically grant all desires. Davy takes it all in, his father's words mirroring his own drive to become a king who gets it, a future he's convinced is just around the corner. His father's monologue keeps going, dropping the real bombshell of what he wants. Davy stays quiet, letting his father's massive ambition sink in, along with the heavy implications of what's coming next. Then, a quiet, almost impossible thought blossoms in his mind: his father hadn't totally forgotten his mother. Just then, a maid bursts in, calling him, "Your Majesty," and dropping the news that the queen's carriage has been stopped. He's still reeling from his father's words, but deep down, he's thinking, no way, not me. If a king ditches his family for power, if a dad is like that. His father's voice booms, laying down the law, then I'll just become the king. A heavy thud as a document hits the table. The king presses on, demanding, "A crazy potion that drives people insane." The maid, bowing low, confirms, "Yes, your majesty." He declares with absolute conviction, "I'd rather die than take it." And the maid, ever obedient, echoes, "Yes, your majesty." Suddenly, a massive, ancient door creaks open with a loud clunk, unveiling what lies beyond. Elena, looking worried, asks, "Back then, could they even do anything?" Davy, ever confident, just says, "I learned what I needed to." She challenges him, "Even with that barren potion coursing through you?" A sharp click punctuates her words, but Davy fires back, "Who cares if I had that potion? I still learned everything I wanted." Another click, and Elena sighs, well, I guess not everyone can do that. Fair enough. Davy, unwavering, repeats, seriously, I still learned everything I wanted. Elena smirks, heh, don't worry, I'll keep your secret safe. Then, with a polite bow, all right, your highness, have a great day. A soft breeze whispers past, and Davy, with a determined glint in his eye, asks, all right, time to move. Shall we? He stands on a high bridge, gazing out at a sprawling city that twinkles under the light of two distinct moons, one a soft blue, the other a vibrant crimson, as if the very cosmos is watching his next move. With a deep breath, he resolves, his voice echoing with determination. Breaking news rocks the kingdom. The queen's gone, and even her brother, Duke Albert, is hearing the shocking reports. She's gone, poof, vanished without a trace. And get this, her maid disappeared just days before her. Davy gets the devastating update, the princess is gone, no trace whatsoever. He lets out a heavy sigh, the weight of it all crushing him. Ms. Maid, ever the strategist, pores over a map, confirming the chilling reality, the queen and the princess are officially gone. Then, a chilling discovery, a blood letter, a desperate plea to anyone who might save them, written in the dark, ominous blood of a black dragon. Davy's eyes blaze with determination, he's going to bring back the queen, the princess, and Shirley. But Ms. Maid has her own agenda, clutching red berries, her mind fixed on a child, still out there, still alive. Davy's still thinking about just leaving things as they are, muttering about the princess being a bombshell, but Ms. Maid cuts him off, telling him to just leave it to her. A new force just dropped, a woman so powerful she was literally a class of her own, draped in skeletal chains and dark energy. Everyone knew instantly, this woman was pure danger, her eyes burning with an insane, pink-purple glow. Davy felt her power hit him like a truck, thinking, her mana is beyond a saint or grand wizard. This was seriously messed up. Then, bam. He was slammed backward, hitting the ground with a brutal thud and crack, his mind screaming, why isn't my magic working? Sweat poured down his face as he screamed in pure rage, his powers completely useless. Yeah, something was definitely wrong. He was flat on his back, magic shattered, and he could hear footsteps getting closer. He looked up to see a red energy line coming for him as her voice sliced through the air, mocking him, what are you gonna do now? She loomed over him, her voice dripping with pure sass, telling him, yeah, getting up. That's gonna be a problem for you. With a final, defeated thud, Davy was stuck, completely helpless on the floor. Still utterly crushed and powerless, he screams out in agony as the shadowy figure dominates him, her presence pulsing with a sinister purple energy. With an iron grip on his throat, the enigmatic woman challenges his existence, demanding to know if he's human or some other creature of the night. Even in this dire situation, Davy fires back, demanding to know why she's just chilling outside, totally unfazed by the chaos. While she looms menacingly, he screams for help, his plea lost in the oppressive atmosphere. With a chilling, mocking voice, she flat out tells him no one's coming to save him. Suddenly, a flash of memory or a dark thought hits the mysterious woman, as she remembers a past confrontation, questioning who sent her and what insane fallout will happen if she keeps going. Back in the chaos, Davy's brain is on overdrive, desperately trying to figure out who's behind this, running through possibilities like the Rune Guild or even the royal family, but he instantly shuts down the royal family idea, no way they could pull off a ritual like this in a day. If not them, then only one terrifying answer remains, the headquarters. With her purple aura flaring even brighter, she hits him with the ultimate question, do you even want to live? Trapped and desperate, Davy Orawane faces his unseen interrogator, who presses him for answers, making it clear this isn't some bureaucratic exchange. She knows he's holding back, and she's not playing by the rules. His fist tightens, a raw, desperate cry tearing from him, just tell him what she wants, and he'll give her anything. A cold voice cuts through his desperation, a chilling acceptance of his surrender. Davy's face twists in agony, a raw curse tearing from his throat as the antagonist drops the bombshell, she wants the death toll. Every single person who died for the headquarters, because of the headquarters, and most damningly, because of him. He stares up, his voice cracking as he desperately tries to defend himself, claiming he saved countless lives to protect others, then throws the question back at her, what about her own body count? But his defiance shatters, his eyes wide with utter despair as a faint blue energy crackles around him, a single tear falling as he whispers a broken, defeated no, no. The blue energy flares around his slumped figure as he collapses to his knees, utterly broken, the chilling truth hitting him, he's already dead. His eye snaps open, pure terror flashing as the shocking truth hits him. Elsewhere, two shadowy figures observe from a window, one confident in their success, but the other, a master of shadows, feels a chilling lie beneath the surface. This shadowy expert, a true master of his domain, presses his subordinate, his instinct screaming that something is terribly wrong. Back to Davy, his hand shakes, blue energy crackling around him as he grapples with the impossible, gasping for air. The espionage expert, now elsewhere, explodes with shock, shouting at the bombshell news of a master assassin loose in the kingdom. He looms over a table, grabbing his subordinate's shoulder, his face a mask of fierce concentration as he weighs the consequences. A pile of old scrolls slams down, each one packed with crucial, but possibly fake, intel. The espionage expert sits surrounded by the messy documents, his eyes scanning the trashy papers, knowing full well that most of this intel is probably a lie. The mind-bending discussion keeps going, exploring other kingdoms tucked away in hidden dimensions. Is this the ultimate rabbit hole they're falling into? Then, the enigmatic Ms. Maid, with her flowing purple hair, drops a bombshell. It's a world she doesn't know, but a world nonetheless, like a network of dimension-hopping tunnels. But Davy Orwain, ever the strategist, is already thinking, maybe he shouldn't be told everything, and he needs to get as far away from this situation as he can. The sheer weight of this new intel hits hard, triggering an explosive of understanding. Like pawns on a cosmic chessboard, the truth is laid bare. No matter how strong you are, political enemies are always lurking. Suddenly, a regal figure, Marquis Patrizzi, with his flowing white hair and beard, appears in an ornate frame, his expression unreadable. He's reminiscing about his late mother's night, and her chilling dreams of monsters, revealing himself as none other than Marquis Patrizzi. Marquis Patrizzi's eyes snap wide open in pure shock, a terrifying truth hitting him like a truck, and he screams for his butler. His desperate shout rips through the study, the urgent butler echoing with a sharp thud. Davy Orwain, high above on a lavish balcony, demands to know who's invaded his space. He's thinking about Duke Baretta's legendary life of luxury and where that iconic phrase even came from. He ponders if this late-night intrusion is even worth his time, his eyes scanning the sprawling city. His face twists in surprise as he demands answers, and Ms. Maid lets out a frustrated ugh from somewhere beneath him. He then cuts to the chase, asking what she wants, but immediately retracts it, knowing full well she's already figured him out. Ms. Maid extends a hand, declaring that hearing his words directly is pointless, and that it ultimately changes nothing. Davy's mind races, picturing the perfect life, total safety, a full belly, a warm home, no crazy adventures, just a long, healthy existence. He confesses that's been his dream since day one as a royal, but quickly adds that he's not saying he wants that right now. Ms. Maid raises an eyebrow, asking if he really thinks that's how it looks, then shuts him down, telling him it's absolutely not, and he should know better. Davy then boldly proclaims his mission, to make his kingdom rich, a small but historic realm that he's determined to elevate to prosperity. Ms. Maid's voice cuts through the night, challenging him on his grand vision and his thoughts on the Crown Prince of Advanced City, and he admits it's a massive undertaking. She pushes, asking for clarification, then drops a truth bomb. The journey is the unforgettable part, not just the finish line. He fires back that his goal isn't just about getting rich, and she counters, suggesting he just seized the throne already. Davy, now in full view, declares that a king can't just chill, and she hits him with another question: is running a territory really that different? He shouts back, of course, then reveals his deep conviction: while others might find shortcuts to power, he's forging his own path. He's going to transform this place into a sanctuary, a home he can always come back to. In the opulent royal court, Prince Davy, the stigmata-bearer, commands respect, standing before the king and queen as a beacon of hope. The queen, with a subtle flick of her fan, questions why such a hero hasn't been showered with honors. Her gaze sharp, she considers the sheer scale of his achievements. The entire court watches, a silent tension hanging heavy in the air. But wait, Davy already has his own territory. And now that he's back to full strength, the plan is to send him there to help out. Later, the queen confides in Duke Albert, muttering about her unexpected interest in the first prince. It's totally out of character. But her face tells a different story, a cold determination in her gaze as she vows, I have to get him. Unbeknownst to Davy, who stands casually with Elena, the queen's concern is a deadly trap, a planned assassination, final smiley, for her best friend. She wanted him dead, an accident upon his return, but the emperor's meddling has thrown a wrench into her twisted scheme. The queen stands beside the king, a picture of serene royalty, but her mind is a whirlwind of dark schemes, plotting her next move. She remembers how the emperor's knights had swooped in to shield the prince, making him an impossible target, and the frustration still burns. A cold dread washes over her. Getting caught means losing her head, a risk she can't afford. Battling the emperor is a non-starter, she decides, seeing her direct methods are dead ends, but then a cunning new strategy sparks, the only real way to erase the prince's stigmata. It requires a divine tool, an ancient artifact of unimaginable might. Relaxing in her bed, she schemes that this very artifact could be the key to finally getting rid of him for good. She quickly drafts a letter to her brother, Duke Albert, pressing him to move fast, because the clock is ticking, and he absolutely needs to locate the holy sword. Across the city, Duke Albert, amidst a gathering of nobles, mirrors his sister's dark ambition, proclaiming his one and only goal is to get rid of that prince. Meanwhile, Elena, deep in contemplation, shares that the crown prince has been desperately searching for the holy sword to solve his problems, and she secretly wishes to aid him, fueled by her love. The queen, ever the schemer, sat regally, her opulent dress a stark contrast to the dark thoughts brewing within her, plotting her next power play with chilling precision. Leaning in, she revealed a cunning omission to Duke Albert. I conveniently forgot to mention the holy sword would actually be approved. That's the kicker. The Duke, catching on, simply agreed, that's true. Her gaze hardened, a chilling determination in her voice as she declared, it won't be simple, but getting rid of that prince is absolutely essential. The Duke, fanning himself, looked utterly shocked, stammering, what? You're going for broke, huh? You really think this will work? But the queen's internal monologue was pure fury, her mind screaming in disbelief at the prince's audacity. Back at the palace, a chilling announcement cut through the air, the command, Your Majesty, has returned. Prince Davy, ever composed, merely glanced out the window, a knowing, I expected it, his only response. As the Queen and Duke Albert made their exit, the Duke grumbled about his daughter's forced marriage, while the Queen's mind raced, convinced the holy sword wouldn't even be an issue if the palace wasn't built on lies. Marquis Patrizzi and Elena de Fallon observed their departure from afar, the Marquis's voice cutting through the air with a stern command, You've got your orders, now prove your worth. I shall do as you command. Davy declares, his voice cutting through the silence of the grand hall. But this isn't like I'm doing nothing, he clarifies, a tiny, purple-haired companion on his shoulder adding, he's saying that he's going to do it eventually. His eyes locked on the throne, a silent challenge. Davy thinks, even if he didn't do this, it would be left on my own. Now that I'm done, there's no reason for me to stay any longer, he announces, his small companion observing, it seems that those two have plans of their own. With a confident smirk, Davy reveals, but they're already dancing in the palm of my hand. Good, so what you believe would be the time to depart? I shall depart as soon as preparations are complete, he asserts, his companion adding, everything has gotten complicated. A chilling resolve in his voice, Davy states. His gaze sharp and unwavering, he proclaims, reformation will need to be done before the next king ascends. There's no way I can give up this reality to others. Davy declares, his small companion echoing, if I get a chance to face my enemy in the meantime, that'll be a bonus. A grand estate, a blue-haired figure, and Ms. Maid are making their exit, a soft sound echoing their departure. While Amy, her voice cracking with emotion, demands to know why her brother has to go, desperately holding his hand as he offers a quick apology for his departure. Davy, flashing a reassuring smile, declares his mission to the frontier to save countless lives, entrusting the capital to his sister, vowing to be back, even if it takes some time. Amy, her heart aching, makes one last desperate reach for him, a quiet plea escaping her lips as she whispers his name. Her eyes fixed on the ground, she challenges him, asking if he's really leaving her to deal with the Queen's plots, admitting her terror of being left to handle it all by herself. Davy gives her one last, comforting smile, understanding the brutal truth of their royal existence. Elsewhere, the blue-haired figure and Ms. Maid press on, leaving the estate behind, their steps barely audible. Inside, a magnificent chandelier gleams, just as a voice urgently calls for Amy. From a bird's-eye view, the blue-haired figure and Ms. Maid are still leaving, a powerful narration proclaiming his destiny to the frontier, to save countless lives, and upon his triumphant return, he will claim the throne, a demand that leaves others utterly bewildered. He hums, his mind racing through the revelations of his past life, the sheer, mind-bending scope of it all, like, seriously. Everything. He turns to Ms. Maid, dropping a bombshell, if she just mentions his name, they'll give her anything she wants, no questions asked. He then thinks about his dad, who was just as ready for a fight, always. So, if he said it in a past life, he's wondering if there's a parallel to that here, in this world. With a knowing look, Ms. Maid delivers her final, chilling words, so it may be so. But as he turns his back, a dangerous thought ignites within him. For him, it's all about the thrill, the satisfaction, an insatiable hunger he can never get enough of. The enigmatic maid watches him go, a knowing, almost predatory smile gracing her features. Later, a triumphant grin splits his face as he declares, what an absolute honor for our family. His perfectly tailored suit and tie underscore the gravity of the moment. A mountain of paperwork is obliterated in an instant, the frantic rustle of documents barely keeping pace with the unseen force. That was quick, someone gasps. His sister, Amy, eyes him with a mix of awe and apprehension, questioning if this is the extent of his ambition, but he dismisses her fears, declaring with an almost unsettling self-assurance that their family's honor will never be forgotten. A crucial document, emblazoned with SRQYEW, is slammed down with a resounding impact. From the shadows, Ms. Maid lets out a faint, almost mocking chuckle. She lays out the evidence, demanding his attention, and he can only let out a surprised, oh. At the revelation. Accursed land, she challenges, her eyes piercing him, so you had something to do with this on you. What an unbiased judgment, she retorts, a chilling, knowing laugh echoing through the chamber.